As someone who's been cheated on, I have zero respect for those who engage in affairs.
As someone who has cheated on someone, I don't care. But, good for you. Hope you're working through it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do we already hate her?
Her bio says coaching with compassion, humanizing humans. But the content that she makes is fully just having affairs and cheating on your partner is like, okay if you just want to do it.
When I have conversations around cheating, I really like to steer clear of the blame game because the truth is, we all play a part.
When people come into my comment section and they're like, oh my God, you're not a girl's girl. I'm like, duh, my network is exclusive.
I'm very selfish. I
Actually, to be honest, I think
my number one
both ways are
priority
selfish.
is me.
If you're still focused on categorizing infidelity as simply right or wrong, you're missing the point of our work. We're interested in exploring the raw truth and complex reality of human relationships.
Since I began my marriage as an affair,
And the act of cheating, often undertaken without understanding its roots, serves as a conduit for exploring hurt, frustration, release, and ultimately, demon relief.
Our community has become a safe harbour where judgment takes a backseat to compassion, where your messy truth is welcome. No judgment, just understanding.
Things your husband did while he was in an affair with me?
Was on a trip with me on your wedding anniversary, telling me how much he loves me and how incredible our relationship is.
I'm a good human's human.
To err is human, to forgive divine. So wrote Alexander Pope, great poet and thinker of the Enlightenment era, the Enlightenment, when we as human beings began to turn away from superstition and move towards logic and reason, to value higher judgment, compassion, rehabilitation and civility over barbaric punishment, chaos and vengeance. To hold forgiveness and grace for our fellow flawed man has come to generally be viewed as the right thing to do, the higher thing, the wise thing, the noble thing, the civilized thing. After all, as Pope wrote, aren't we all human? Flawed creatures for whom perfection is impossible, and so to judge and blame each other so cruelly as we do helps no one. Let him who is without sin cast the first stone, said Jesus. In fact, he went further than that. Do not resist an evil person, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn to him the other also. A revolutionary idea for society at the time, the idea that you could transcend vengeance and an eye for an eye, and choose peace and forgiveness, and still recognise the humanity in whoever hurt you. To extend to them the hand of forgiveness even if they don't deserve it. Isn't that what God does? Shakespeare also gets in on this idea. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesses him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mighty. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. High praise from the bard himself. Mercy, forgiveness, understanding, grace, love, such things are a heavenly gift, noble, as sweet and precious as rain in the desert. Forgiveness, rehabilitation and growth are not only possible, but wonderful. In the 60s and 70s, these ideas developed further into the modern New Age movement, which borrowed lots of ideas from many different religious traditions, but made sure to emphasize universal oneness, nature, a very Jesus-like concept of forgiveness and peace, and the importance of healing from shame. If we are all one, then forgiveness becomes easy, understanding of our fellow companions on this planet becomes easy. A lot of modern therapy, particularly the pop culture idea of therapy, seems to agree with some of those ideas. No matter what you've done, there can be a place for you to work through these feelings and actions and trauma and heal the self-hatred you hold for your past. Because what is the value of holding on to shame? Aren't feelings like guilt, shame and self-disgust base, lower emotions that keep us trapped, keep us in boxes, prevent us from reaching our highest potential? We are all flawed, no one is perfect, and to try and hold ourselves to ideals of perfection and punish and berate ourselves for every slip-up, is that really a healthy way to live? And often, shame can come from archaic societal ideas that you shouldn't even feel ashamed about in the first place. Guilt, shame, self-hatred and punishment are powerful methods to crush someone's spirit and control them. To forgive yourself for your past and release shame, to not punish yourself or others, this is something we should all aspire to. This is how we reach enlightenment. With all of that being said, I'd like to introduce you to Chelsea Smallwood. Chelsea has reached enlightenment, a higher state of human existence, one might say. Chelsea might say. Chelsea cheated on her husband for 5 years with another married man, broke up 2 families with kids involved, married her affair partner, and now makes videos on the internet, still mocking her husband's ex-wife. Yes, the one he left for her, that he divorced over a decade ago. But it's okay, because Chelsea exists on a plane beyond such concepts as blame, or right and wrong, or being ashamed of your actions. Chelsea is sort of like a modern-day Jesus Christ, if you will. Yes, apparently she's also a Christian. And Chelsea now preaches to all of us mortals from on high about how judgment and holding her accountable for her actions is an unenlightened instinct that you should really address within yourself. Chelsea is so wise, in fact, and has so much to offer the world, that she is also a life coach, and through her organisation called The Other Woman and the Wife, she offers a safe space for cheaters to be coached on why they shouldn't feel ashamed or bad for actively having an affair, because... Oh, sorry, well, Chelsea doesn't even actually really like the term affair. It sounds a bit judgmental, and as we know, Chelsea is a higher life form above being judgmental. The only emotions she can feel are compassion and love. It's really, really an example for us all. She prefers the term experiencing infidelity. I apologise, Chelsea, I'm sorry about that. So Chelsea coaches people experiencing infidelity about why you shouldn't feel bad, actually. What I've learnt from Chelsea so far is that feeling bad keeps you trapped in a small box. It really does. It's so harmful for you. Just do what you want. You know, it's about self-empowerment, and some people are just too small-minded to understand that. And if you're judging that, by the way, you're just proving her point that, yes, she is better than you. Chelsea embodies Jesus' teaching of forgiveness and turning the other cheek, not necessarily in how she behaves, but in encouraging other people to turn the other cheek when she metaphorically slaps them right across the face. And that is what the future of humanity looks like. Enlightenment looks like Chelsea Smallwood. I know I've delivered this introduction facetiously, but I do actually value concepts such as healing from shame, forgiveness, and extending people grace. I think people can move on from bad things they do and find redemption. I think there is truth in Jesus saying, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." I agree with Pope that to err is human and to forgive divine, and I've always loved what Shakespeare wrote about mercy. I think if you've done some bad things in the past and are carrying that self-hatred around with you for years, that you should work through that you do deserve the space and opportunity to release and heal from that shame and be redeemed. And I do think that a society that always values punishment over understanding is not a healthy society to live in. And I know that guilt and shame are effective population control tactics utilised by cults, dictators, and fundamentalist religions all throughout history. However, I also believe that the concept of endless forgiveness and not being judgmental can also be used to manipulate and control people. Having understanding for someone's past wrongs when authentic can be a good thing. Having understanding for someone's past wrongs when used as a cover to trample all over others, get people to ignore their own instincts and dodge accountability, is toxic. I'm not a Christian, but since we've been on the topic, turn the other cheek isn't the only thing Jesus said. He also had a warning. "I am sending you out as a sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves." Meaning, compassion and forgiveness are only valuable when tempered with discernment, otherwise you might as well be a lamb to slaughter. To continue the metaphor, wolves are easy to spot, but wolves dressed as sheep who do harm under the guise of doing good are particularly devious. Even worse is a wolf dressed as a shepherd, which I think just about sums up the narcissistic, judgmental, gaslighting nightmare that is Chelsea Smallwood. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Galatea, and this is Asis, my dearly departed. And today we're going to be talking about toxic spirituality, how selfish people can take advantage of forgiveness and empathy, and how some manipulate language to repackage causing harm as an empowering and liberating act, and make people believe that those who just want them to stop are the actual bad guys. Today our microphone is a star sign book because this is all about spirituality and being enlightened and all that jazz. And I'm an Aquarius, So there we go. We've got an Aquarius book. So to begin, I just want to go through some examples and show exactly what Chelsea is doing, because in my opinion, not only is she trying to manipulate the viewers with her flowery rhetoric, but she is also giving people mistreating their partners the tools to further gaslight and control that partner out of feeling what they have every right to be feeling. If someone close to me was in a relationship with Chelsea, who arm waves away every bad thing they do with manipulative language and twist things to make themselves the victim even when they are in the wrong, I would genuinely be really worried for their well-being. I would consider them to be in a mentally and emotionally damaging and manipulative relationship with, honestly, a narcissist. I know that term is thrown around a lot, but like, we're just going to get to loads of Chelsea's behaviours, and whether or not she herself is a narcissist, how she's behaving is definitely narcissistic. Like, it's crazy.
Remembering when someone told my affair partner's wife about us, and he told her he hardly knew me, ... So I'd post videos of myself with my location to my socials whenever I traveled with him. Like little Easter eggs for her to find so she could say, see, I'm not crazy, I knew it. Girl, you're the Riddler! Why are you leaving a breadcrumb trail of clues to taunt this innocent woman's mind? I tagged the location in all my pics, like little Easter eggs. Breadcrumbs sprinkled along the trail behind me so that whenever she would confront me, he could gaslight her and it could be my little game.
I actually, gasped and laughed out loud at the same time when I first saw this. It's supervillain evil. You're going to psychologically torture this poor man's wife to drive her crazy looking for clues while you taunt her via Instagram. Are you okay? Now, personally, I like searching for clues from a trail of breadcrumbs, but there are healthier ways to do it, involving far more likeable characters. Which is why today's video is sponsored by June's Journey. If you like detective stories set against the glamorous backdrop of the 1920s, which who doesn't, then this hidden object mystery game might be right for you. At the beginning of this tangled tale, we meet June Parker just as she hears of the murder of her sister and her sister's husband. The police have closed the case. There's a simple explanation, but June, our smart and savvy protagonist, thinks there's more to this than meets the eye. So, of course, she sets off to their luxurious estate to begin her search for clues. Throughout the game, you go through different hidden object scenes to search for clues and start to put together a picture of what happened. In each chapter of this story, there are different characters to meet, who may have more to them than first meets the eye, and different places to be, from speakeasies to yachts to sunny markets. The mystery sweeps through New York, Paris, Monaco, and beyond. There are family secrets, romance, betrayal, and drama to uncover, all seen through the eyes of our likeable, smart, and practical heroine. What really made this enjoyable for me is the wider story arc and the characters. I love a good mystery. I love a good mystery tale, and when detail has gone into the characters and the story. And I also very much enjoy glamorous backgrounds. If you like pretty things, you can also decorate your own island and gradually unlock more land and items as you progress throughout the game. And the best thing is, it's fun and happy for everyone involved, and no one is emotionally targeted. So download June's Journey for free by clicking on the link down below or scanning the QR code on the screen right there. June's Journey is available to play on mobile devices and your PC, so thank you to June's Journey for sponsoring this video. Back to less fun mystery solving. Chelsea really should have redirected her desire for drama into a healthier outlet.
I knew it wasn't my place to tell her, but I also felt badly that he chose to keep deceiving her. But when she did see the post, she called very upset and confronted him, expecting the truth. And of course, he did some song and dance. Did she really believe he'd confess when simply asked, facepalm? And she's like, I used to leave a breadcrumb trail of clues because I'm a good person and I actually did want her to find out. But then when she confronted him, he did a song and dance and lied. What, did she expect him to actually tell the truth? Facepalm, stupid wife moment, anyone?
The fact that Chelsea just cannot help herself from being condescending here as well. Like, she thinks it's funny looking down on his wife for expecting her husband to tell her the truth. What an idiot for trusting the man who made vows to her, promised to love and honour her until death do them part. What an idiot she was for thinking she could ask him something and expect the truth.
My advice, when you want the truth, don't ask the person you suspect of lying to be honest. That's just dumb logic and sends a signal that you really just want them to hide it better from you, which they will. It's like holding their cake over their head and handing it to them with a fork. Think about that for a minute. What?
I mean, who's really the smart one though? Because she married a husband not knowing what he was like, but you married him fully knowing what he's capable of. So who's the real idiot? So a lot of Chelsea's videos I got from the Dadvocate, who has done a great job of calling out Chelsea and documenting her timeline of behaviour. And also Film Cooper was where I got some other clips from. Because even though I have gone to Chelsea's pages to gather my own clips, she's currently involved in a lawsuit, no surprises there, So loads of stuff has just not there anymore, has been gone, so I've had to rely quite heavily on the Dadvocate's video and Film Cooper's video. Even when I was scripting this video, which is quite a while after she, like, rebranded and kind of removed a lot of her old videos. Between scripting this video and filming it, some of the links I have that were some of the videos left on her TikTok are gone. I click the link and they're not there anymore, they're gone, they're unavailable. So there's still some stuff being removed between me scripting this and filming it now, even though this is quite a long time after she was kind of blowing up and all this drama was going on. Really brief explanation of the lawsuit, but if you're interested, it's fascinating. I'll link the Dadvocate's videos down below and you should watch them, and it's crazy.
In a public lawsuit filed in Miami County, Ohio, Chelsea Smallwood, her company, and one of her coaches, Olivia Nicodemus, are all being sued for damages resulting from what I can only describe as pure degeneracy. According to the lawsuit filed by a woman named Kristen Jacobs, the story all began when this woman, Kristen, found out that she was being cheated on by her spouse with her best friend. That best friend being Olivia Nicodemus. Kristen discovered Chelsea's Other Woman page when looking up content about infidelity and was absolutely effing floored to find a video of Chelsea reading Kristen's very own text messages about Kristen's very own affair word for word on her TikTok. So to find out how Chelsea even had these text messages, Kristen joined the Other Woman community anonymously, which you're allowed to do, only to find out that Olivia was also in there and posting pictures of both Kristen and her children. Not only that, but Chelsea was encouraging Olivia to admit to some of the most depraved acts I've ever heard. Olivia brags about sleeping with Kristen's husband while Kristen was sleeping right next to them. Olivia brags about spying on Kristen's intimate moments with her husband with binoculars. And Olivia brags about sneaking into Kristen's room and using her personal toys on herself without her consent. That's Chelsea's Other Woman community for you. A place for healing. Quickly catch you up, Kristen is alleging that Chelsea and Olivia caused harm to her by allowing pictures of her and her children and their names to be posted to the Other Woman community for comparison and humiliation purposes. And Chelsea is basically alleging that Kristen harmed her by telling people about it.
In classic narcissist fashion, Chelsea actually started it, so she's being sued, but that's because she tried to sue another woman.
Someone, a person that we still are not sure of and haven't identified, ended up posting a website called exposingtheotherwomanandthewife.com. According to some individuals who did see it, it basically did exactly what the Ashley Madison expose set out to do, to name and shame Chelsea Smallwood's cheating clients who felt so confident coming online and bragging about their endeavors. As it turns out, the Other Woman and the Wife community is really shit at protecting your privacy. So this actually all started with Chelsea recklessly suing someone first. After the expose website was published, Chelsea began desperately trying to search through her past and present clients, trying to figure out who could have been behind this. But again, Chelsea doesn't have like an internal investigation team or anything. She's just one unfaithful lady with a podcast who you're trusting all of your deepest and darkest secrets to. So without a proper team or any cybersecurity analysis, Chelsea pretty much just had her gut instinct to rely off of, and she used that gut instinct to incessantly target one woman named Kristen. So first of all, I don't know Kristen, but from everything that I've gathered, it seems as though she has denied making this website from day one. At first, I didn't understand why Chelsea would target this one individual or assume that she, of all people, did this, but these court documents and the responses explain everything in such a crazier way than you are even expecting.
And also, I think she threatened, has been sending cease and desists to some people online covering this, apparently as well. So she's a delightful woman, is Chelsea. Oh, the other thing, this woman alleges in her countersuit that Chelsea and her, who she thought was her best friend, also contacted her therapist behind her back to tell her therapist not to believe her or that she was crazy or something like that.
Another alleged complaint is that Chelsea Smallwood, the founder of the Other Woman community for cheaters, aggressively contacted this betrayed spouse's therapist in order to continue to bully her alongside Olivia. Well, internet cyber sleuths and longtime Chelsea haters have unearthed some evidence regarding these claims that is likely to be presented at the discovery trial. And yet another user found this publicly posted comment by Chelsea on her own videos saying, "I contacted her therapist. She said it's a useless cause." So Chelsea is contacting betrayed spouses' therapists. It's not enough for you to use your massive platform to bully people who have been cheated on, but you're also going to go out of your way to infiltrate their mental health care and then lie about it? And you bragged about doing that.
So yeah, that's a really brief overview. But if you really wanted to see a deep dive in the timeline and just Chelsea's unhinged behaviour, the Dadvocate's videos are really good and I'll link them down below. So if that wasn't a damning enough character overview of Chelsea, I'm now going to show some more examples of Chelsea's awful behaviour, just so that when I later go on to show her pseudo-spiritual, pseudo-psychological explanations for why she's so wise and evolved and beyond ideas of right and wrong, you'll be able to see just how much of a fraud she really is. And maybe you'll be able to recognize this in your own life if someone close to you is doing similarly selfish, inconsiderate, or downright bullying or humiliating things, and then later gaslighting you and confusing you by using intellectual language about why you're the problem for having an issue with it, not them for actually doing it. Because some people might find Chelsea's bullshit convincing if we didn't have such clear video evidence of her being awful. So there are a few videos of hers that went viral in the first place, because everyone just saw them and was like, this woman's insane. So this is one of the reasons, and as I said, I had to use other people's videos because I couldn't find the originals for some reason after the law got involved and everyone suing everyone. But there are these videos.
Things your husband did while he was in an affair with me? Her whole thing later is just gonna be like, you know, you just shouldn't feel guilty about it. Like, love is love. But the stuff that she says in this video, it's so rude to the wife who, like, you got chose over. It's like dunking on a woman who's been dunked on. He told me he loved me and he wished he'd met me before you. Told me he was unhappy but couldn't make himself make his kids grow up in a broken home. What?
She's like bragging about this, by the way. She's being smug about this. Not only did you take this woman's husband, break up her family, and then marry her husband, you then make TikTok videos like rubbing salt in the wound. Like, do you have to do that? Do you need to do that? Have you not like won enough?
Talked to you on the phone while he was with me, and I could hear everything. He talked to you while he was on the phone, and every single time you had a phone conversation with him, add into that memory in the back of your mind that I was right next to him going, she doesn't know, laughing at her behind her back, and then airing it out, lied to you repeatedly about where he was. And again, just to check in on the video that she's posting with, it's her cheersing while she drinks cocktails with this music.
Can you imagine how you feel if your spouse wasn't just having an affair with you, but when you rang them, your partner, your spouse, the person who is like knows you better than anyone, and you think you're having a private conversation, and you trust them and you love them, not only are they having an affair on you, but the person they're having an affair with is listening in. And then you're proud of that, you're smugly proud that you're using that against her. What did she ever do to you, except marry the guy you liked before you met him?
Didn't tell you the actual full truth when you caught him.
So later in this video, we're going to hear Chelsea say that she was paranoid when her and her husband first got married. Yeah, no wonder you were paranoid about your husband after watching him shamelessly lie to his first wife for years. I wouldn't trust him either.
He didn't actually end the affair, even though you went to counseling together and he said we were no contact. He just got better at hiding it.
Do you hate your husband, Chelsea? Do you hate him? Because it's the only reason I can think of why you would make him look like such a shitty person online. You've like presented him as the villain. How deceitful and selfish and weak-willed and spineless do you have to be to pretend to someone that you're working on your marriage while just lying to their face and still sleeping with the person behind their back? There's having an affair and lying to your spouse. Then there's getting caught. Your spouse says, okay, we'll work on our marriage. They stay with you, and to their face, you pretend that I'll work this out with you. I'm not going to talk to them again. I promise. And you're still lying. That's a whole other level of despicable. You can't trust that man, ever. That's really embarrassing for you, Chelsea, that you won that. You won that man. You won him. Congratulations. Personally, I think you're doing a charitable service by taking him, well, I was going to say off the market, but you're not really, are you? Because he's probably, he wasn't off the market before when he was married, was he? This is his third marriage, by the way. Chelsea's his third wife. I just thought that's important to mention. Congratulations. You really won. Yeah. So obviously that video goes viral. That wasn't the only one she did. She did another one like this as well.
All right, we're gonna turn off the licensed music, and what we have here is the caption reading, "Things your husband did while he was in an affair with me. Was on a trip with me on your wedding anniversary, telling me how much he loves me and how incredible our relationship is." No, really, just imagine this is you. You've just celebrated your wedding anniversary, one of many of them, with your spouse. And after finding out that it's all been a lie and they've been cheating on you for a significant period of time, you find the affair partner doing this while just rubbing salt right inside of your open wound. Just rubbing it all in.
He's on a trip with a woman who's not his wife on their wedding anniversary. Like, again, there's betrayal and there's betrayal. And I just wanted to really make it clear that Chelsea and this man were like supercharged betrayal. You know, that they really went for all out. You know, let's go on a romantic trip together on your wedding anniversary with your wife. And you can tell me how much you love me on your wedding anniversary. Which, do you not maybe like assess your life if you're on a trip with a man on his wedding anniversary to someone else?
What else did he do while in an affair with you? He commented on your post about your anniversary, saying how much he loves you and how incredible your marriage is. She's shaking it, she's smiling, she's smizing even, smiling with her eyes, just open face bragging about the fact that your man, now her man, something that she's very proud of, lied to both of you, played you both at the exact same time, using the exact same lines, giving none of them any actual credence or meaning, as it just disperses them wildly to both of you. Not an ounce of creativity. You're literally both receiving the same gifts, the same treatment, and this is you bragging about it.
Chelsea, you've been conned. You're not special. Imagine having so little self-respect, you accept a man who's telling you and another woman the exact same things, and you think that you're the special one. That's humiliating. I can't believe you admitted that with your full chest.
What else did he do? He set up a bank account with me and hid money there from you to pay for all of our trips and to buy me gifts.
This man is trash. So Chelsea's basically saying that she was okay with him stealing from his wife, and she facilitated him stealing from his wife. Because that's what this is. Stealing. They were married, so the money belonged to both of them, and he decided to hide it away to spend on another woman. Again, the betrayal, there's so many layers to this betrayal that Chelsea and this man engaged in. For 5 years, by the way. She was also married, that's the other thing. 5 years they did this behind their partners' backs. And Chelsea saw that scummy behaviour, saw him do that, take money out of... Well, he's got children, he had children with this woman, his wife, his ex-wife. Chelsea saw him doing that, taking money that should, have been shared with the family. She saw that scummy behaviour and she thought, yeah, that's the man I want. That's him. Ooh, love me a bit of that.
Took you out with friends and let you wear the jacket I had bought him for Valentine's Day. Told you about us and our 5-year affair on your birthday because he couldn't take the guilt anymore.
He told his wife that he'd been having a 5-year affair on her birthday. And Chelsea, you thought this was the man whose genes you wanted to help continue. How shitty of a husband you have to be. Can you imagine that you're having a 5-year affair on your spouse, and when you finally come clean and tell them that for 5 years of your marriage, you've been betraying them and lying to their face. Even though we've known from Chelsea that his wife has called him out and asked him before whether he's having an affair, and he's lied. Finally, he tells you the truth. And he chooses your birthday to do it. It's so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing for her. I would never admit that it took a man over 5 years to leave his wife for me, and that I stayed and put up with that. And also, it gets funnier, he broke up with Chelsea after that on her birthday. This man hates you.
Wow, what a stand-up guy you picked. What a real, just absolute pinnacle of masculinity that you chose and are gonna die on the hill for, apparently. Told me that he was ending things with us on my birthday because he couldn't take the guilt anymore.
This man just seems to want to, emotionally destroy women on their birthdays.
After disclosing that he would text me to contact him so we could talk, and he could say how much he loved me, but he had to stay for the kids. When you would see my number on the incoming call list, he would tell you he didn't know why I kept calling and that I was crazy and couldn't let go. And this is all to open a greater conversation for understanding. She's being brave and bold, okay? She's so brave for this.
Chelsea thinks this is a dunk. This is supposed to be a dunk on his ex-wife. Things your husband did while he was having an affair. Chelsea, this isn't the own you think it is. Yeah, I'd be pissed off if I was his wife. Your husband's lying to you and is really still having an affair, but he just pretends, oh, she's crazy, she keeps calling me. Okay, so maybe you're trying to rub that in her face, that he was lying when he said you were crazy, but that's so embarrassing that he talked about you behind your back to his wife, about that you're insane. Bearing in mind, I just want it to be known, bearing in mind, Chelsea calls other women insecure when they criticise her. I don't see those other women putting up with being someone's dirty little secret for 5 years while he decides whether or not he wants to leave his wife, putting up with knowing that he's telling his wife exactly the same things he's telling you and thinking you're the one he's not lying to. I don't know why you would think that, except he's actually telling his wife those things publicly while you remain a dirty little secret. And then finally marrying that man who played you for 5 years after he finally decided to pick you over his wife. I don't see those women doing that. Secure women wouldn't stay with a guy who talks shit about them to his wife and took half a decade to decide whether you were worth it. But I guess that's all okay, and Chelsea feels validated because she got him to pick her in the end, and emphasis on the end, and abandon his kids in another country for her. That must feel really good, to feel like that desirable, that you got a guy to leave his kids for you. Wow. That must be why she's moved on after 10 years and has stopped trying to still compete with his wife. Except she hasn't, has she? Because she's still living there. She's still competing with a woman that she won over a decade ago. That's so embarrassing. Who's really insecure? Why are you still insecure about the fact that you still don't really feel you've won?
Told you that I was a big mistake, and he will do the work to make sure he never does anything like that again. I cannot stress enough that her entire channel is about trying to take the sting out of infidelity. This is just it's adding sting. It's making the sting be stinging, okay? Tells me he misses me so much and asks me to resume the affair.
I've said this before in another video. It was my video on Ariana Grande and her history of stealing other people's partners. But I mentioned in that as well that, the one instance I mentioned was the Adam Levine's mistress case. And that was really prevalent in that case, where it's so true that for some women, and probably people as well, but this was just specifically about women, for some women, cheating doesn't seem to actually be about the guy, but it's about the validation they get from being like, oh, I managed to steal a guy away from his wife and kids. I must be that desirable. That's the kick. The kick isn't someone likes me. It's someone likes me so much he left his family for me. They're almost more obsessed with his wife than they are with him. And Chelsea seems kind of obsessed with his ex-wife. It was like the Adam Levine's mistress thing, where she went online and she made such a big deal out of, I was having an affair with a man who's married to a Victoria's Secret model. He's married to a Victoria's Secret model. She made such a huge deal about it, and it made it seem almost like it wasn't even about Adam Levine. It wasn't about him. It was about, she was an Instagram model. It was about this Instagram model being able to publicly, it was almost like the validation she got from being like, I'm hotter than a Victoria's Secret model. He might be married to a Victoria's Secret model, but he's having an affair with me. It was almost like weirdly more about his wife. And I went through it in that video, but there was several things where she was taunting his wife, and this girl is brunette, his wife is blonde, and she'd make posts about how brunettes are hotter, or blondes, snide little digs at blondes or something like that. And she dressed up as a Victoria's Secret angel in another video. All these things that made it out that were do you like this man? Or are you just obsessed with his wife and feel really insecure and not as pretty as his Victoria's Secret wife? You get validation from the fact that having one over on her, on thinking you're prettier than her. It was very much that vibe, and I get that with Chelsea. It seems to be more about the kick of the infidelity of I kind of stole him away, rather than about the actual man. At least that's her whole online presence anyway. She still won't shut up about the fact that she's this desirable forbidden fruit, even though it's not, their relationship hasn't been forbidden for over a decade. It just makes it look like infidelity was the kick, not the guy. So Chelsea kind of made some weird romantic thirst trap of herself, in black and white, but almost as if it's from her husband's point of view, except it's key to mention that he didn't make this video. Chelsea made this video, sort of imagining that this is how her husband felt about her, even though, again, he didn't make this video. Making herself out, I think she likes the idea of herself as forbidden. Ooh, he desires me so much. Again, this is not his point of view. This is Chelsea's point of view.
Cannot love her, they whisper, for it is a sin. I only smile at their words.
Edit of herself. No, you're married. You can't love her. It's a sin. It would be a sin to love her. Her being her, the one who's posting this. The man who's having affection for her. I can only smile at their words, he says.
Knowing that they have not knelt at her altar, nor tasted the divinity staining her lips.
She's posting, by the way, kind of a weird edit from a distance, just show the pictures they're taking. While saying, yeah, your man was fucking kneeling at my altar, tasting the divinity staining my lips. That's who I am. Girl, you are making this sound like a really compelling thing to do. It is incredible to be desired, especially by one who isn't allowed to desire, like a married man. I'm like a sin, and they just can't stop.
She's made this video in black and white with this, of herself, I'm so forbidden and secret and forbidden fruit, and oh, my husband, he just couldn't stay away. He was like, I know, I'm married, I have a wife, but I just smiled and people told me to stay away because they have not knelt at her altar, nor tasted the divinity staining her lips. Has he ever said that to you, Chelsea? Has he ever used those words? Has he ever said that to you? She is so clearly turned on by the thought that her husband had to leave his wife for her because she's so tempting. She likes that idea. Oh, I'm forbidden fruit. That seems to be her thing, is her kink is forbidden fruit, or so attractive he abandons his children for me. Their affair was over 10 years ago. They're now married with children themselves. Are we not over the forbidden aspect? But also, this is so, like, it's so narcissistic. I'm sorry, it really is. But also, it's not, like, it's so romanticizing herself and everything she does. And, like, again, it's showing the affair, like, this divine experience. It was kneeling at her altar and, oh, we had an affair, but it was just because we couldn't help ourselves and it was just so romantic and divine. Yeah, we deceived 2 people we loved for 5 years and abandoned them horribly. But it was because this is like a spiritual experience and it's not really our fault. We'll see that later with she loves dodging accountability. Not only is all those things though, it's also, this is like how, and this is like, it was just from Twilight. This is how an angsty teenager speaks. This is like the kind of bad poetry that 15-year-old girls write.
So be it then, I say. I will walk into hell gladly.
So be it then, I'll walk into hell gladly. A man, your husband by the way, would walk into hell because loving me is so bad, but so good, and he's lying to you constantly.
This is such 15-year-old girl behavior. You can see how she's like romanticized and built this reality in her own mind that, you know, saying that, oh, he loves me. Okay, I have no choice. I'll walk into hell with you then. I'm guessing hell is referencing the mess they made when they broke apart 2 families and had a 5-year-long affair that finally, you know, everything came out and they ended up married. Is that what hell means? Is hell abandoning your children? Is that all that, like, creating just a mess in life? I think that's what it is. You see the 15-year-old girl mentality of I'm going to romanticize, like, bad things and the shit. Like, it's romantic. He'll walk through hell for me. Grow up. And look, if that wasn't enough to show that, this is just a still from one of her other stupid buddy videos. This is another of descriptions of Chelsea's description of infidelity. Bearing in mind, she says she's not glamorizing it or romanticizing it. Okay, Chelsea. This is just a still from one of her videos about infidelity. These relationships live in the shadows, in soft whispers and vows of secrecy. They exist in clandestine rooms where desire and intimacy are the invisible stars only they can see. Someone's been listening to too much Taylor Swift. She's 10 years past an affair. She's still living off that high. It's clearly still such a turn on for her. These are like over-romanticized things of her and her husband's relationship, when really they were both just scummy people who betrayed their spouses and lied, and probably quite boring, so to have some excitement, they just had an affair. But no, they live in the shadows. They're from the shadows. Ooh, in soft whispers and vows of secrecy. Ooh, they're romantic and forbidden. They exist in clandestine rooms. Ooh, where desire and intimacy are the invisible stars only they can see. You know what that means? It means nothing. What does that mean, invisible stars? Bearing in mind, I like flowery language, okay? I love all that. No, it doesn't mean anything. You're trying to make betrayal sound romantic and edgy and angsty. You're 15 years old. Grow up. This is embarrassing. How old is Chelsea? How old is she? 30s, 40s? I'm sorry if that's right. I actually don't know how old she is, but she's too old for this. This is how teenagers talk in their first relationship, when they put like embarrassing posts on Facebook. Is she happy in her marriage? Is she happy not having an affair? Because it sounds like she's really turned on by affairs and she's no longer having an affair because they're married. Are you bored, Chelsea? Is that why? That's why she gets involved in other women's affairs. Is that the kick? Are you getting a kick out of this? Is that it? Oh. Ooh, naughty. Living vicariously now. Is that what's going on there? That's crazy. You know, like a beauty pageant mother whose glory days are gone, so she pushes her daughters and lives through them up there on the stage. I think that's just what Chelsea's doing with all the women she's coaching. Oh, I just love an affair again. Clandestine relations. Sorry. Does she love her husband or does she love the affair? Is the question that I want to know from all of this. Look, all of this just confirms me that it's classic other woman validation thing. You wanted to prove your own desirability over another woman. This is what people mean when they said millennials never grew up.
When you open Facebook and see posts about your affair from the spouse of your affair partner.
Just like damn, it's 7 a.m.
Awesome. By the way, she is a Swiftie.
She's so immature. Again, this is giving 12-year-old girls in a fight at school and posting about it. Why does she need so much attention and validation? And that answers the question of why she had an affair. Are you expecting us to side with you rather than the wife? Oh yeah, Chelsea, you're right. Yeah, how dare she? How dare the wife of the man that you shagged Speak about it. Oh, what did you ever do to her? How could she? How could she be saying that publicly? The fact Chelsea posts things like this and expects people to side with her makes me think she must be a narcissist. How else do you have this little self-awareness? Why does she always think she's the victim? Chelsea has properly girl-bossed cheating. She's girl-bossed it. Yeah, let's go. Girl power, Chelsea. This is what feminism was all about. I love it. Acting like she's above the drama. I hate this. She's acting like she's above the drama. Damn, 7 a.m. Like, oh my God, why are you coming for me? Me, I never caused the drama. I'm never involved. Oh, God, get over it. God, why are you causing a drama? Why is the wife of the man that I'm having an affair with? God, why are you causing a drama right now? It's 7 a.m. Oh, what did I ever do? I'm so chill. I never cause drama.
Oh, when you notice his wife is stalking all your socials. By the way, this is playing. Yeah, it's teenage dirtbag. Cause I'm just and she's looking like, it's not, oh, you feel guilty, oh, you feel bad. It's when his wife is stalking your socials, so you just log on her.
Things his wife did after the affair. I think that we can all agree that finding out that you've just been cheated on for 5 years would probably take you a little bit outside of your own character, right? That's such a huge bombshell to drop on anybody. So the fact that you just helped someone have an affair on their spouse while raising children together for half a decade, and you're now going to go, and she didn't handle it very well. As if she would be doing any of these things were she never cheated on. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to pretend that everything that she describes is an appropriate thing to do. I'm not going to pretend that the things that she's about to describe are things that I haven't outright condoned with veracity on this channel. Called our boss and demanded they fire me, but not him. I'm not mad about this yet, okay? I'm not mad about this. Continuously posted pictures of him on social media, intentionally hiding the fact that he was no longer wearing his wedding ring. Okay? That's her husband. She's allowed to post pictures of her husband. Oh, I'm sorry that you're offended that she's posting pictures of her own family. Contacted the police and told them I had threatened to harm their children. In parentheses, I hadn't. Now again, like I said, I'm not going to pretend to condone all of these actions. Okay? Never make a false police report. At the same time, I don't know what situation or what words could have been exchanged. Excuse me. For the mother to come to this conclusion. Called his parents and siblings and told their children about the affair to humiliate him, but then told him that she wanted to save the marriage. Can you believe she stalked me on social media and created a new fake profile every time I blocked the one she was using? Told him if he chose me, he would never see his kids again. Again, don't condone that. Do not condone that. Convinced all of her friends to comment on all my social media, calling me names and threatening me with violins. Look, I'll say this. I don't condone of this woman's actions, first of all. But second of all, none of us are given like a little handbook as youngsters that's how to emotionally regulate and properly deal with being cheated on for 5 years straight. None of us get that book. The book does not exist. There is no like little doctor's pamphlet or like quick Pinterest board for the proper ways to get through the aftermath of a horrific betrayal like that. Very, very few of us, probably none of us, would handle the same situation with any grace, with fuck all grace, quite frankly. Going back to this point really quick, I don't think that she had to do much convincing. Like, look at this right now. Look at you, look at what you're doing. I want to call you names and threaten you with violence, and I'm morally opposed to those things. Told him that he had to sign a contract agreeing to never see or speak to me again, or else she gets everything in the divorce. That's not crazy. Does she think that's crazy? That's not crazy. That's a boundary that a lot of people set when experiencing infidelity in a relationship that is oftentimes one of the only things that can actually cause the marriage to survive. That's not crazy. That's called a post-nuptial cheating clause.
Chelsea's got to make herself the victim. She's got to villainize the wife, so she makes videos like this. And yeah, like the Dadvocate points out, not necessarily condoning everything his wife did, but firstly, I really doubt Chelsea's retelling of events for many reasons. But secondly, yeah, his wife didn't handle it well. She found out that the father of her children and her husband had been having an affair and lying to her for 5 years with a woman she clearly suspected something from and had asked him about, and you both had denied it. Called his parents and siblings and told their children about the affair to humiliate him, but then told him she wanted to save the marriage. Like, it's always a bit difficult when you get kids involved and stuff like that. not sure about that. But then it's like, yeah, did she go a bit off the rails at such a betrayal? Did she act out of character? Did she not act gracefully? I imagine most people, if they were in that situation, even if his ex-wife had behaved badly, most people would probably have the self-awareness and growth and grace to look back and go, yeah, she did some not great things, or, you know, she was kind of, she did this or to him or this to me in the end. Go, however, I can kind of understand where she was coming from, and, you know, it's unfortunate how this started, and we did really hurt her, and, you know, I can understand her perspective, and I wish she hadn't behaved like that, but I can understand why she did, and it's sad. But there's not even any of that. There is no empathy and understanding for this other woman who she is obsessed with demonizing. Even now, 10 years after she won. Why you just leave this woman alone? Jesus.
When your affair partner doesn't confirm his wife's suspicions, and she ends up choosing violence. You have to, I can fucking feel it! She needs a fucking exorcism. So in this cute, little, demure, thoughtful, very for the girls, very girls girl energy video of Chelsea Smallwood, Chelsea is implying that when a wife who is being betrayed for 5 years is unable to produce solid evidence to the affair, but she knows it's happening, and her husband continuously lies to her face and gaslights her, saying, you're crazy for thinking this, you don't even have proof, what in the world could make you possibly think that I'm doing this thing that I've definitely been doing for 5 years? Chelsea's implying that she's the crazy one who needs an exorcism for saying, I don't need proof, I can just feel it. So here, Chelsea is potently gaslighting a victim of betrayal by suggesting that she's crazy for knowing that something is true that Chelsea herself admits is very, very true.
It's so funny for Chelsea's, like, all her claiming to, you know, this girl boss thing of, like, don't judge or shame women and all of this. You've got this, you're destroying her reputation, trying to make her look crazy. Like, that's your thing, like, crazy woman, crazy insane woman. Oh my god, how dare she shout at her husband when he's currently engaged in an affair? How dare she get passionate about that? Crazy, oh my god, crazy, couldn't be me. Chelsea's not like the other girls, guys. Chelsea's not like that, she's chilled. She's like, oh my god, crazy over here, crazy. I slept with her husband and ruined her family and made her father of her children abandon his kids, but she's crazy. God, can you guys believe this? She's crazy. Chelsea is horrible. This is mean girl behavior. Chelsea is a mean girl. I'm going to talk about this later. She all this spiritual bullshit. She's mean. That's a mean thing to do. You wind someone up, you get an emotional reaction out of someone, and then you do the mean girl thing of like, oh my god, she needs a fucking exorcism. God, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? That's the subtext there. You're really weird. This is like mean. She's a 15-year-old girl. Chelsea's a 15-year-old girl.
Hell, who knows? Next 10 years, she may leave me for somebody else. Or I may leave her for somebody else. Who knows?
Well, if that isn't true love, I don't know what is. Imagine breaking up 2 families for a love like that. That's so embarrassing for her that she has this narrative that her and her husband are like star-crossed lovers with like a divine love that's so powerful and so pure. They had to leave their partners and families for each other. They just had to, guys. Can't you understand? You need empathy for people who have affairs. And then that's the response the husband gives. Yeah, like she might leave me, I might leave her, but like, you know, who knows? Who knows really? I mean, well, I guess for him, I was going to say the point of marriage is that you're supposed to know. You're supposed to be like, oh, till death do us part. That's generally the agreement there, but this is his 3rd marriage, so he clearly doesn't take that very seriously. Best of luck to you both. So we can start to see Chelsea positioning herself as morally superior as a way to deflect criticism in this video here as one example. Unfortunately, because between re-scripting this and me filming this, Chelsea's deleted several of her videos. This video is not on her TikTok anymore. It's, at least when I click on this link, it now says video. The video is suddenly unavailable. I wish I'd saved them, but I just assumed she'd already deleted everything she wanted to delete for this court case, because she did that a while ago. Don't know why she's having another purge now. But basically, I can tell you exactly what it is, and I've quoted her as well. So you'll just have to believe me. So she was replying to a comment. She did a TikTok video. The comment out there, she was replying to a comment that said, they cheat with easier, not better. And then Chelsea, really smugly, she does this response and she said, I can't believe there are women on this planet who think they are in competition with each other. That was her smug response. It was really condescending and patronising and just obnoxious. Subtext being, I'm not like the women who compete, I'm better than them. Chelsea, you are not above competing with other women. Your husband has been divorced from his ex-wife for over a decade and you're still making videos about how he loved you more during your affair. You are not enlightened. You're not above competing with other women.
And I could also tell she was not fully with us when she allowed her other woman community to post pictures of the affair partners' wives for comparison purposes. What?
But Chelsea's moral superiority, her grandstanding, her, I can't believe there's some women who think they actually have to compete with other women. Ugh, couldn't be me. Her moral superiority is important because it's a control tactic. A control tactic that's also used by cults, by the way. I'm not saying that she is a cult. I'm not saying she's a cult or anything. I'm not saying that. But the manipulation of language and positioning herself as morally superior, despite being a huge hypocrite, should be setting off warning bells. She's just very manipulative through her language.
Once people started going through her posts and comments with a fine-tooth comb to see how truly depraved this affair coach really is, poof, she started deleting everything. But after a night of radio silence, she reemerged with this rebrand. Affair or complicated connection? Still an affair, Chelsea. But are you starting to see what we've been saying when we're telling you that these cheating coaches of her little business are really just teaching cheaters more crafty rhetoric to gaslight their spouses and everyone else? Because it's right there in front of your face.
So this post from Chelsea is more like her, what she's trying to go for now, which is kind of this like a life coach thing, or positive, or like, you know, as if she's helping, or nuanced. I believe in nuance and the human experience and all of this shit. So this is one of her like more updated videos. Things to consider before you disclose your affair to your spouse. It's the caption that's really interesting.
The urge to spill everything at once is real. That moment when the truth sits heavy in your chest, begging to be released. But what if selective truth-telling isn't betrayal? It's boundaries! What if protecting parts of your story is actually protecting your path forward? You've rehearsed the conversation 1,000 times in your head. Each version feels both right and wrong, leaving you stuck in an endless loop of what-ifs. Finding that balance between honesty and self-protection feels impossible. Like trying to measure water with your hands, too much slips through, too little feels incomplete. The weight of carrying this decision alone is exhausting. Wondering if anyone else understands this internal tug-of-war between full disclosure and careful revelation? DM, relate if you're wrestling with how much truth is too much truth. Let's talk about navigating this together. Heart.
So, shall I translate the manipulative language? This woman is really something. This woman is really something. People who weaponize language like boundaries to describe their betrayal or harm of another. So she's basically saying, it's about, oh, when do you disclose the truth? When should you disclose the truth? Be careful when you disclose the truth. And then, oh, if the urge to come clean and spill everything is so real because you feel so guilty. But have you considered it might be about your boundaries? It might be a boundary for you. It might be self-protection. She uses pseudo-spiritual language here. Betraying your spouse and then not being honest with them about it, lying to them about it, not being truthful to them about it, isn't your boundary. It's not a boundary. The one exception I'd give to this is a genuinely abusive relationship. Okay? Then I get it. Apart from that, no. Like, don't you love how these people can portray themselves as the heroes no matter how they behave? Now, lying to your partner, it's your boundary. Imagine arguing with a partner like this. The gaslighting and manipulation will be off the charts. So you catch them cheating, and instead of remorse or taking accountability or coming clean, you're met with, this was my boundary not to tell you, and I was protecting my path forward by not disclosing that I was shagging your best friend. People like this are the worst, hiding behind empowerment language to mistreat others.
And the act of cheating, often undertaken without understanding its roots, serves as a conduit for exploring hurt, frustration, release, and ultimately, demon relief. Demon relief.
I'm sorry, cheating can be a conduit for demon relief? Girl, what the f— Now, I've seen this woman very Caucasianly co-opt terms like rebirth and enlightenment, but now you're saying that cheating is the new method of exorcising demons? I have been used to the hippy-dippy psychobabble word salad from the other woman for a long time now, but lately it's been really giving cult leader. It's weird.
Society labelled me the homewrecker, the villain in someone else's story. Then the plot twist. I married him. Back then, I was drowning in shame, carrying the scarlet letter of the other woman like a weight around my neck. Society labelled me the homewrecker, the villain in someone else's story. Instead of hiding, I started questioning why we shame people seeking connection. Not the fairy tale ending society expects, but my real, messy, complicated truth. Why do we force complex human relationships into simple boxes? My breakthrough came when I stopped apologising for my story, where personal growth flourishes in the light of understanding. If you're tired of carrying society's labels, you're in the right place. Our community has become a safe harbour where judgment takes a backseat to compassion, where your messy truth is welcome. Let's explore your truth together. No judgment, just understanding. Yeah, because Chelsea never judges other women, does she? So the background music as well, just for you to know, it's Fearless by Taylor Swift, because she's 15 and she thinks she's in a music video and she thinks she's being brave by cheating on her husband. This is the language I'm talking about. This is manipulative language. Instead of hiding, I started questioning why we shame people who are seeking connection. But that's not true, is it, Chelsea? We don't shame people seeking connection. We love people seeking connection. There's lots of services for people seeking connection. There's lots of dating apps for people seeking connection. There's whole TV shows centered around people seeking connection. It's one of the most understandable human instincts ever, Chelsea, is people seeking connection. We don't shame people seeking connection. You know what we shame? See, this is the psychological little trick she does. The little verbal little trick, the linguistic trick of flipping her, oh, and you go, oh, because it sounds reasonable what she's saying. You go, oh, that's true, Chelsea, isn't it? It's really understand that we shame people seeking connection. We shouldn't shame love. We shouldn't shame people seeking connection. We fucking don't. What we shame is people betraying the person they're connected to. Do you get this? We shame people who rip apart that connection in a really traumatic way. That's what we're shaming. You see how she's flipped it around? We shame people who lie, who are dishonest, who betray, who steal money from their wife to spend it on another woman, who abandon their kids. We shame that. I think those are good things to shame. And again, not the fairy tale ending people expect, but my real, messy, complicated truth. It sounds nice, doesn't it? It sounds nice. And then why do we force complicated human relationships into simple boxes? By the boxes, I'm guessing she means the honesty box, the trust box, the truth box, the reliability box, the fidelity box, the commitment box. Shame keeps us silent about affairs long after they're over, perpetuating cycles of isolation and judgment. I've discovered that openly discussing my experience, though terrifying at first, creates space for others to heal. When I first shared my story, 3 women approached me in tears. They'd never told anyone about their affairs, carrying that weight alone for decades. Your past doesn't define you, but avoiding it keeps you stuck in shame. Ready to transform your story from shame to strength? And then you have to DM me Courage Revolution to access my free masterclass. Oh, she's so brave. Chelsea, she's so brave. She's such a brave revolutionary. Oh, Courage Revolution. Let's cheat on our husbands. Oh, revolution, courage revolution. You're rebranding betrayal and being scummy as brave revolutionary. That's what I mean. You know what though? Some of those things I can agree with. Like, if you haven't, like, it's probably not healthy to have an affair that you had decades ago and carry that shame and the weight alone for decades. There's a place for healing from wrongs you've done, for no longer being ashamed about an affair you had in the past. Yeah, it's not healthy if you had an affair a long time ago and you're still ashamed of it. When you've worked through it to this day, you still can't get over it. Yeah, I think you should be allowed to heal from that, and that you shouldn't feel isolated or alone or judged. There are people you can pay to go and talk to you about that. They're called therapists, which Chelsea isn't. She's some life coach. There's a place for forgiveness and working through these things, but it's not when you're behaving like she is online and enabling and justifying.
He told me he loved me and he wished he'd met me before you.
Does this look like someone enlightened? Someone above us all who's reached a deeper understanding? Someone who doesn't judge others? Does this look like someone who doesn't judge, who's compassionate, and brave and revolutionary and doesn't believe in fitting complicated human relationships into boxes, except when it comes to her husband's ex-wife, and then she needs an exorcism. She's possessed. You say you want to understand infidelity, but the moment someone admits to cheating, you jump to judgment and shut them down. You claim to want insight, but when faced with the reality of someone's experience, you recoil in disgust rather than lean in with curiosity. If I speak honestly about my choices, my mistakes, my truth, you demand silence instead of conversation. You say we should destroy the cheater, erase their perspective, but what if, instead of condemning, we actually listened? You claim to be open-minded, to want to unpack the complexities of human relationships, but the moment the conversation includes an actual cheater, your worldview collapses. You expect honesty and self-reflection, but only on your terms. The moment it challenges your beliefs, the rules change. So you didn't really want the truth, you wanted a version of it that fit your narrative. Everyone wants to understand infidelity until the understanding comes from a person who cheated. Chelsea, have you considered that people did hear you, that they heard you and they disagree? That it's not that you challenge their worldview, but that they are challenging yours? That seems more what it's like, because she can't handle criticism.
She also posted some advice that, on the surface level, I guess to her sounds smart, but is actually just deeply revealing of the things that she did. My affair has just been discovered and I've lost everyone and everything. What do I do next? Then it cuts to her saying, you rebuild everything from the inside out. But then in the description, cutting away from her making those, you rebuild everything. Yeah, it's so hard being fucking, fighters for sure love. But her description, she says, one of the most helpful things I did after my affair was change who I was connecting with on a regular basis and paying close attention to how I felt around certain people. If you're ever in need of a supportive community, okay, so what I'm seeing right there is, yeah, when people found out that I was doing this affair, they all universally condemned me, and I felt like, oh, I don't like them saying these types of things and making me feel like I'm a bad person, so I'm gonna avoid all the people who I'm closest with and completely start a new life with this other guy with people who know us from now on, because anybody who knows who I actually am is extremely critical, and I don't want to be critical of myself. That's what you're saying, Chelsea.
Is it possible that you're taking any criticism, anything less than total adoration, as others being too fragile and can't handle the truth? I think you're the one who can't handle the truth, Chelsea. I think people have listened to you, they heard you, they listened, and they said, ooh, sounds like narcissism. And then you didn't like hearing that. And then you're accusing other people of fitting things to their narrative. That's so rich. We've already seen Chelsea fitting things to her narrative. When he gets caught by his wife and feels safe to come back to you because he's convinced her that he's learned his lesson, and they twist it to make you out to be a stalker. I mean, maybe you're not a stalker, but you are a bitch. And you waited for him to feel safe, that his wife believed him enough to then go back to you. God, the lack of self-respect is really telling. If you're still focused on categorizing infidelity as simply right or wrong, you're missing the point of our work. We're interested in exploring the raw truth and complex reality of human relationships. Our content isn't about moral judgments. It's about understanding the deeper story. This is great, guys, because you see, if you follow Chelsea, whenever you do it, you can do this with anything in life. Whenever you do anything wrong, this is what you say to people. You go, oh, you're toxic. I'm interested in complex human relationships. You're clearly not. You're clearly too small-minded. It's so embarrassing that you need to have these binary ideas of like right and wrong. I'm not about moral judgments. I don't morally judge people. We're about understanding the deeper story. Truth allows us to see the complete human experience beyond moral labels. Oh, I love it. Let's throw morality out the window. It's not always the people, and the people who do that, people who argue for that, they're always the best people, aren't they? Instead of just condemning an affair as wrong, we can understand the unmet needs and personal struggles that led there. Reality enables authentic healing. Does Chelsea seem healed, by the way? Still making videos about the woman her husband left for her? When freed from right-wrong thinking, people can be honest about their feelings and choices without shame, leading to genuine transformation. Truth acknowledges complexity. Right and wrong create false binaries, while focusing on reality lets us see that relationships exist in shades of grey, where good people can make hurtful choices. Ah yes, the old no such thing as right and wrong argument, used by fake enlightened manipulative people everywhere to justify their shitty actions, placing yourself on a greater moral authority so you're just better than everyone. You see how convenient that is? If people call you out for bad behaviour, you can make it their moral failing. It's your moral failing. They're just not being enlightened enough. This is what you call manipulation 101.
What do I really threaten? Like, I want to understand what everybody is so angry about. And when I got down to it, it felt like I threatened the institution of marriage. And I had to sit with myself in that and be like, is that something that I really want to do? Do I want to threaten the institution of marriage? And as it stands today, absolutely. I also know deep down in me, I have the freedom to change my mind at any point in time. And that gives me a lot of peace, because even though I want this business to exist, ultimately, who's going to determine if this business exists are the people who are playing into it from the other side. And whether they are going to link arms with me on this mission or not, it's not up to me if this business survives. What's up to me is how I show up in this business.
We've supported hundreds of clients through complex relationships and living on both sides of infidelity. So what's with all the rage about the existence of this conversation? The fear is that openly discussing affairs will destroy marriage as we know it. Here's the truth. I'm not threatening marriage. I'm challenging a system that prioritizes institutions over human growth. She's the good guy. She's so revolutionary. She's challenging the system. She's a freedom fighter. Have an affair. Be a freedom fighter. When a client told me she stayed in an emotionally abusive marriage for 12 years because divorce wasn't an option, I knew something needed to change. That's a separate issue though, isn't it? That's just a completely separate topic. Irrelevant to this. I'm personally not angry because, Chelsea, you're threatening the institution of marriage. It's about using language to betray people around you and paint yourself as the hero, presenting yourself as some freedom-fighting progressive saviour who's just challenging society's norms. You're causing trauma and harm in people. I think if people are unhappy together and things are get divorced. Don't have an affair. she's acting like this is some like conservative overlords that are against her. People, the institution of marriage. Oh, people are so like uptight and old school, and they think you've got to be unhappily married. No, it's easier than ever nowadays to get a divorce. There's even less reason nowadays to have an affair. So this was another video that I linked, and I'd written down some things from the video, and it's deleted. Interesting, from her TikTok. Basically, it's a list of responses she has when people say, why not just leave? Like, why are you having an affair? Why not just leave your partner? I can't remember what all of them were because she's deleted it. But I did write down number 2, which is wild. So number 2 was the fear of being alone and that this new relationship might not work out can be paralyzing. Boo-hoo. So you're using your spouse so you don't have to be alone. You're using them. You're using your spouse. That's deeply selfish, so you don't have to be alone, while also getting validation from someone else, someone you're not even sure it'll work out with. So you're not even sure if it's going to work out, but you think it's worth betraying someone with just because you don't want to be alone. See, it's all about her, and yet she's presenting herself as some spiritual, like, ascended master or something. It's selfish. It's cowardly. Yes, that is what you give up when you leave a marriage. Yeah, but you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's not how it works. It's like taking away that person's autonomy because you've broken the agreement. So your spouse agrees, likely the agreement is, I will be your partner and I will stay with you as long as you are faithful to me. That's generally, so they don't have all the information to make an informed decision there. You're taking that decision away from them. So you're going, well, I still like you there and I don't want to be alone, but I'm not going to tell you that I'm deceiving you, that I'm, with someone else behind your back. And you're using them without their full knowledge. It's really selfish. God, she's deleted so many of these videos, almost all of these. This is another one she deleted, and I don't know what it was, but I wrote down, it's like watching an angsty teenager who thinks she's deep and her relationships are deep. It's so embarrassing. This is giving, you just don't understand, mum, I love him. Yeah, it was some angsty thing about having an affair and over-romanticising it again. But she deleted it. I wonder why she was embarrassed of that. Ever since I married my affair partner, there are people who want me to regret it. They think the life we've created is a mistake. But what if I told you society has a flawed attitude towards how to avoid regret? We live in a world where we are told that we'll have a great life if we follow the rules. That if you do all of the things that society expects of us, we'll be happy. But studies show that at the end of our life, we won't regret the obligations we didn't fulfill. What we regret the most is letting fear, guilt, and uncertainty stop us from pursuing the ones we loved. You keep telling me to stop making excuses for my actions, but I would challenge you to stop making excuses for your inactions. The cost of not following your heart is spending the rest of your life wishing you had. Fear is temporary. Regret is forever. My favourite thing about this video is that over the clearly meant to be happy footage showing like how amazing it is that she followed her heart, it's just a video of her clearly getting pissed off at her kid for like pulling at her clothes. She has like a grumpy face when she turns back. Okay, really selling it there. She's so up herself. She thinks the ego is insane, out of control. Give me a break. You are not the noble rebel that you're pretending to be, Chelsea. You're just a cheater. Reel in your ego, Jesus Christ. Look, I would never begrudge someone who is breaking society's rules by leaving an unhappy marriage. All power to them. All power to them. If that's what's best for them, if they feel like they are missing out on something amazing, if they feel unhappy and unfulfilled in life and the marriage is not going well and they think my life could be so much better if I just did this for me and I have to do this for me and, divorce this person or maybe I go for this person. Okay, if that's what's best for them, do it. But betraying promises you've made, lying and going behind someone's back is not as noble as you think it is. It's something society as a whole looks down on because it's a nasty thing to do. Just like we look down on lots of other things that people end up in prison. You don't end up in prison for this. I'm not saying you should end up in prison for this, but we look down on lots of things, and the reason for that there are some taboos that are like there for a reason, and there are some rules and stuff. Like murder, that's a good rule. Like it's not. You can't just say, "Oh, I'm breaking society's rules," and automatically as if that's a good thing. Some rules are good. Some rules are good. Some laws are good, actually. That's not just by virtue of it just being anti-society that it's a good thing. It's just more meaningless like shit. She's going, instead of judging me and making excuses for my actions, why not ask yourself why you make excuses for your inaction? Like smug little, ooh, look at me, so clever. Always she has to be the hero. Always she has to be better than you. She's better than you. Why you make excuses for your inaction? You didn't have an affair? Oh, God. Pfft. You're just too scared. I'm so brave. And then the caption, we regret the things we don't do more than the things we do. Guess what? I once wanted to push one of my childhood teachers out of the window because she was being a gigantic bitch. And I didn't do it. And you know what? I'm very happy about that. I don't regret that I didn't do that. We regret the things we don't do more than the things we do. Well, it depends on the things, doesn't it, Chelsea? So a lot of people became aware of Chelsea when she went on Jubilee's Middle Ground. It was cheaters versus cheated on there. Is cheating always wrong? So pretty early on, Chelsea interrupts a question not meant for her to talk about the concept of blame. Okay, so I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to explain a lot of what Chelsea says on this Jubilee appearance because I've uploaded this video twice already. And both times it's been copyright claimed by Jubilee, despite me speeding it up, blurring it, using short clips, a lot of it. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to explain what she says in a lot of this. If I can, I'll play snippets. So for most of these clips, I'm just going to have to say what they're saying and describe it. If I can, I will leave some of the short clips in, but that might mean that I'm describing something and then you're seeing it because I will going to leave both in case when I upload it to YouTube for a third time, in case they try and copyright claim even that. And if they do, it means that I will have to cut out all Jubilee clips. So in that case, you might just get me kind of describing it and then a short clip of it actually happening. And I'm sorry that it kind of doubles up like that, but at this point I'm going crazy because twice they've done it. So I'm sorry about that, but I'm going to do my best. So the moderator asks someone else, do you feel you had equal blame in the cheating that occurred? Chelsea interrupts this question to say,
I think that bringing the conversation to the concept of blame.
I think that bringing the conversation around to the concept of blame, I think you actually have to understand the purpose of blame. And I think the purpose of blame is to shift responsibility. Bearing in mind she's talking about that the cheated on shouldn't necessarily blame the cheaters. When I have conversations around cheating, I really like to steer clear of the blame game, because the truth is we all play a part, society included. I also wish you could see the clip because her obnoxious, like really drawn out, vocal rasp, kind of Valley Girl-esque accent is getting to me, and she's too old to be acting like that.
Society included.
That's just an accountability dodge. It's convenient if you don't have to face your betrayal of someone by telling yourself and everyone else that it was just as much his fault as yours, or that you don't believe in the concept of blame. She's just so full of shit. It's just pseudo-spiritual bullshit language, so she doesn't have to apologise or accept responsibility. It's just, ooh, the concept of blame. Let's not blame someone. Let's not blame them. Let's not blame me. You'll blame his ex-wife, though. So this isn't Chelsea talking now, this is the grey-haired guy, and they're talking about emotional cheating, and he says, so for me, I think lots of things, I look at lots of people, and I expect whoever I'm with is thinking lots of things and looking at lots of people. And he's saying until they take action where they're physically engaging with another person, it's not cheating, because they're living life as a human being, and they're just feeling and thinking and fantasizing, and doing all the things that we all do because we're human beings. And then the moderator asks him, this is the grey-haired guy, who is one of the cheaters, the moderator asks him if he's ever felt guilt and if he feels worse about emotionally cheating or physically cheating. And his response is, I've never emotionally cheated. I'm a human being and I live my life.
I've never emotionally cheated. I'm a human being and I live my life. And if I think something or if I have a relationship with her where I'm telling her about my relationship, gestures to the woman next to him. Or I have a relationship with her where I'm telling her about my relationship and I'm falling in love with her.
And I'm telling her about my relationship and I'm falling in love with her. That's okay. I can feel that.
That's okay. I can feel that. But until I do something about it, I haven't cheated. I haven't done anything to my partner.
But until I do something about it, I haven't cheated. I haven't done anything to my partner. Says the cheater. I know this isn't Chelsea, but this attitude I just want to highlight here as well. I wonder how most people feel about that your partner thinks it's perfectly okay to talk to another member of the opposite sex about your relationship, blur boundaries, and even fall in love with them, but it doesn't count as a betrayal yet. Which is funny because that also actually reduces a relationship down to only sex, it seems. Yeah, I think for most people, the relationship you have with your partner has other levels of intimacy beyond just physical that would be considered inappropriate to be shared with someone else, especially talking about like your relationship. That's such a crossing a line. I mean, it is possible to behave like someone's partner without getting physical with them, and most people would consider that an intentional betrayal, especially if you're telling them about your partner. I just think it seems like an accountability dodge to be like, oh, I didn't really do anything. Maybe not getting into inappropriate situations with other women would have stopped it leading to the physical cheating. That's what he said would hold more weight if it wasn't coming from someone who's a self-admitted cheater, at least in the past. And look, everyone's got different lines on what they consider cheating. Fine, some partners and some couples are okay with certain things. But just this attitude in general, I just really don't like, and I think it's really silly. I mean, first of all, by the way, that's Alan Rickman's character in Love Actually. There's no physical cheating from what I remember in Love Actually, but he is having an affair and he did betray his wife. It's emotional cheating. Like, it's very clearly, you know, a betrayal. And maybe this guy isn't like this, but he just said the perfect thing that has just given the perfect opportunity for me to talk about this, because it's similar to Chelsea's mentality. Maybe he's not like this in general, but what he said is, it's just, I really don't have much patience for new age bullshit speak to justify and enable your own bad behaviour. It kind of reminds me of Russell Brand's character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Like, that kind of archetype of, oh, I'm one with the universe, we're just humans having human experience, so therefore it doesn't count if I cheat on you. That kind of person. And look, the reason I began this video by talking about this wider philosophy of non-judgment, understanding and empathy, particularly where it relates to the New Age movement, is because some of the manipulative behaviour and language Chelsea engages in are problems fairly common to this community. So this was one of the first things I thought of when I came across Chelsea, and it's irritated me long before I came across her as well. So I'm not saying this guy who said this, I'm not saying he's bad necessarily, I don't know much about him, but the way he was talking here. I've just seen this a lot in New Age circles, where they will use enlightened language and make you feel like the bad guy if you are placing reasonable expectations on your partner. Or for anything, but I'm just talking partner specifically here, but they can do it for anything. They will use lots of spiritual language and imply that you're restricting them, or taking away their freedom, or being closed-minded, or not allowing them to be human, man, if you have certain requirements and boundaries within a relationship. Well, guess what? Relationships are defined by boundaries and responsibilities. If you don't want them, that's fine. You don't have to have those things, but then you shouldn't be in a relationship. Being a parent is a perfect example. Yes, that is a restriction on your freedom. Yes, you become obligated to something other than yourself. Yes, you have responsibilities. You have to make sacrifices. Puts a burden of responsibility on you. Yes, that's what that relationship requires, and it requires boundaries and clear boundaries, and and someone to rely on you. Yeah, it's the same with a partner. It requires someone to be able to trust you and rely on you and have expectations of you. That's what you have expectations of someone. And I've just seen in the past lots of people using spiritual word salad to justify why they can do whatever they want and cross all sorts of lines because of the universe, brother. And for some context, by the way, I'm fairly familiar with the New Age space community, whatever that means, whatever you want to call it. Perhaps not so much now, but I went to what some have called a hippie school when I was younger. It wasn't specifically a New Age school or anything, but it attracted a lot of New Age types, okay? I don't think it would be inaccurate to say that I was raised around a lot of it, so I'm not just like talking out my ass here and casting judgment for no reason. Now, this isn't a blanket statement like dismissing and dissing like all of New Age. There's actually a lot about it that I quite liked. And I think lots of it has lots of value. But there's also consistent problems and attitudes that seem more common in those spaces than elsewhere. And even as a kid, some of these things would really wind me up, which is why my spidey senses were immediately tingling when I came across Chelsea and listened to the way she speaks. I'm not saying that Chelsea necessarily identifies with the New Age movement. From what I understand, I don't think she does. I think she's some sort of Christian. She's in the Jubilee thing. She seemed to imply she was a Christian. Though a lot of like modern hip streams of Christianity do have a lot in common with New Age stuff and spaces. They kind of cross over quite a bit. But whether she identifies with it or not, she uses a lot of the language and ideas that you can find in those spaces, and I think she's been influenced by it, consciously or not. So I'll give you a really brief idea of some of the things I'm talking about. I'm not saying this is everyone who associates with the New Age community, and again, it's such like a broad thing to like, it covers such a range of ideas, and it's so broad. And I'm not saying it's everyone by any means, but you do come across these things a lot, I think. So firstly, at least from my experience, there can be a lot of passive aggression. So because everyone's got to be enlightened and non-judgmental and choose peace and being zen over anger, they can get real passive aggressive. And again, that's something you see with Chelsea. She can be really passive aggressive. They'll claim they don't judge, but they do. They'll preach about being empathetic and not being mean to people, but it just starts to get underhand and sneaky. Or maybe they'll say like you shouldn't be competitive, or comparing yourself with others, because it's like low vibrational, you know, for example. But then they'll compete in other ways. It will just be like who's the most spiritual? Like, oh, can't believe you shop at H&M. My trousers are made out of felt. And it becomes a purity contest. Example, I once walked into a new age shop, you know the type, stinks of incense, crystals in the window. And I went in because I said I actually like some of the like new agey stuff. I kind of like some of it. I go in, there's 2 white girls with dreadlocks wearing like classic hippie attire behind the counter. I smiled at them. They gave me the bitchy up and down, like, you don't belong in here look. Whispered at each other, like looking at me. And they would hardly talk to me because I was dressed quite smartly and I was wearing makeup and I didn't have a tattoo of a Buddha quote. So no, a lot of them are not above judging others' fashion choices or being conformist mean girls, despite claiming everything to the contrary. I wasn't dressed like this, by the way. If I was dressed like this, I feel like they'd have been nice to me. I wasn't dressed like this. I was like, looked a bit businessy. I can't remember. I remember quite like, yeah. And I just, the vibes were so strong of, what are you doing in here? Zara's down the street. It was that. So another issue I came across in some of these spaces is word salad. Word salad. They love a good word salad. If they're not speaking plainly and are taking themselves so seriously, using loads of pretentious language about transcendence or releasing your ego, and it's so convoluted that you have no idea what the hell they're talking about, they're probably not actually talking about anything, and they just want you to think that they're very smart and spiritually evolved, and ironically, are acting purely from their ego. Like, some of the best spiritual people, and I'm not saying, like, I hate spiritual people. I don't at all. Some of the best spiritual people I've come across are just often, like, very grounded, quite practical, and what they all have in common is that they really don't take themselves too seriously, and they know how to laugh at themselves. They've got some self-awareness and humility, we could call it. So it's the word salad, it's these weird language games to just, when they don't really know what they're talking about, and that's Chelsea, and convince people they're a life coach. I just want to say, I'm being broad here and making generalizations for the sake of ease. That's not always the case. Obviously, there's all like nuance to it, but it's just because I remembered like one person in particular, an old teacher of mine, this crazy philosopher type who I absolutely loved as a teacher and was the opposite of everything I'm talking about, who used to like have like loads of wordy lectures and all that kind of thing, but was great, like not pretentious at all, just loved like kind of going off on just absolutely bizarre conversations that were brilliant. So it's not always like this isn't a blanket rule, but you know what I mean. You know the difference when you come across someone who's just using pretentious stuff. They don't know what they're saying and doesn't mean anything, just to put together to make themselves sound smart. So I just wanted to say that because obviously I'm just being general. Another issue, and this is the big one, toxic positivity. There can be a very don't focus on the negative, that you only bring more of that into your life. Just call in the positive, only positivity and unconditional love here, no anger or bad feelings allowed. It can be a bit like that in some new age spaces. Now, there are some good things about that, but there are several issues with that also. Firstly, that's how you become willfully blind and ignore any actual bad things that are happening in the name of, not focusing on the negative. Secondly, you might be ignoring your instincts. If you get a bad feeling about somebody, maybe you shouldn't ignore it. If you make a judgment about somebody, maybe you're not actually being bitchy. Maybe it's a valid judgment. Maybe you're being discerning. Maybe you shouldn't have endless understanding and empathy for someone who is taking advantage. And maybe you should be able to express justified anger without some woman called Cherry Blossom passive-aggressively letting you know that your negative energy is unbalancing your root chakra. So there's nuance to it, there's balance to it, there's levels to it, obviously. It's not good to be bitter and hold on to anger, and like peace and zen is all very well, and that's a good thing. But the demonization of anger and of criticism in general, this kind of toxic positivity, within a lot of new age spaces is a big thing that I don't like. As someone who's been around a lot of it, it doesn't make new agers less angry or less critical. They just get passive aggressive with it. It just becomes more like underhand. And also, anger is not a bad thing in and of itself. Anger is important. Anger lets you know when your boundaries have been crossed or something unfair has happened, and suppressing it isn't necessarily healthy. Criticism, again, is also important because not everything in the world is good. It's not. And it's not bad to say that thing's not good. I know that whole, just don't say anything if you can't say anything nice. Yeah, but sometimes you need to say that thing's not good, and it stops more not good things happening if you for whatever it is you're criticising. And sometimes it is actually necessary to tell someone that they are talking bollocks, and that no, you don't have to accept them just the way they are, because who they are is terrible. Like, I've seen this with Chelsea. When she received criticism and anger from people online, people who are angry at how she has mistreated people and is coaching others on why mistreating people is fine and healthy, actually. When people get angry at that, she'll make a passive-aggressive video about how they're insecure and they just don't understand her truth. or something like that. Again, I can't show you the videos because she's deleted them since I scripted this. But she'll say something like, then you're not ready to see reality. And again, like I said, it's just interesting when comparing it to some cult speak, because that is also how cults control people. And it's a gross form of emotional manipulation. Ironically, using shame to try and do that, to try and control people, despite Chelsea being so anti-shame. It's using the shame of like shaming someone into your feelings are bad and wrong. That this anger you have, oh, there's something wrong with you. You're just not understanding or spiritually enlightened enough. And some cults have done that exact tactic before. It's emotional manipulation, and it's shaming people while pretending to be anti-shame. And I just really want people to be aware of what exactly it is she's doing here and how she's manipulating things and how she's manipulating the language. I think most people know that when they come across her and see her, are like, who is this woman? She's awful. I think it's interesting to talk about exactly why it's manipulative. And also, some people think she's the man, think she's got it all figured out and are being manipulated. And especially partners of these people, that's the worst. If they're actively being manipulated. And that's the thing as well, something about the New Age is boundaries can sometimes be discouraged. I mean, there's even a stereotype, the stereotype of the New Age fuckboy. That is a stereotype. The guy who just uses pseudo-spiritual language as an excuse to cross women's boundaries. Why don't you believe in free love? You must just not be liberated enough. No, it's okay that I'm super touchy-feely. It's okay that I'm super touchy-feely with you and all over you. It's okay. It's all love. We're all one being. It's okay that I'm touching your body because your body's like my body because we're all like one being, one creation. Yeah, I've been cheating on you. Yeah, I've been cheating on you, but is it really cheating when like people don't belong to people, you know? Like no one really belongs to anyone. We're all just like bodies having an experience. I just like go with the flow and I don't want to be restricted. You wouldn't restrict me, would you? No. Like yeah, I ditch my kids and I don't pay child support, but that's because I don't feel that would be in my best interest as a developing human consciousness. You know, and unfortunately my ex, she's not very evolved. She's very unevolved because she's not accepting me for who I am on my journey right now of I just don't want to experience fatherhood. And that's really damaging for my higher self and the experience that I'm choosing to have right now in my life. And it's really like disempowering for me. So I just had to like get rid of her and the kid. I don't even believe in the concept of money anyway, which is why I don't have a job. By the way, can I borrow a tenner? Might seem over the top, but I've met some people who speak very similarly to that. And it always winds me up when I hear it. But a lot of the things I listed there, talking about kind of the New Age stuff, a lot of that are just ways people hide or justify their bad behaviour beneath the window dressing of being evolved, while they also participate in the kind of judgment they condemn others for. And this is exactly what Chelsea does. The word salad, the pretentious language, her acting like she's above judgment and comparison while she still mocks his ex-wife, the pretending that she's evolved past ideas of right and wrong, just so that she doesn't have to admit that, yes, what she did was wrong. The women who are paying Chelsea are paying her to repackage their selfish action of infidelity as something empowering or acceptable or even brave, so they don't have to judge themselves. They are paying her to rebrand them. We can see this sanitizing of the actions and the pseudo-spiritual toxic positivity, even from her bio, which reads, humanizing humans. Yeah, guys, she's not coaching people on affairs. She's not being deceitful. She's humanizing humans.
A person's past is indicative of who they were at that point in time, not necessarily who they want to become or who they are in the present moment. And I think what's most important is who you are in the present moment.
But only if you've grown, only if you're not justifying it and coaching other women how to do it. Also, who someone wants to become doesn't really matter in what they do. A person is their actions in a very practical sense, not what they claim they want to be. Anyone can claim they want to be something. Oh, I can't believe you judged me for this bad thing I did. Like, I don't want to be, that's not who I want to be. So you're denying my existence or something. So the ginger lady on the Jubilee panel says that she's very secure in her relationship and that she has her moments, but that's more to do with her own insecurities, but that when her boyfriend goes out, she's absolutely fine and there is no doubt in her mind that he is faithful. This is what the ginger lady says. And Chelsea responds to this by saying, so I began my marriage as an affair. The man that I've been with for the last 10 years is the man I cheated with. I proceeded to have 3 of his babies and we now have a fabulous life. But in the beginning,
the amount of paranoia and anxiety.
The amount of paranoia and anxiety that came from the fact that you cannot control anybody else's behaviour but your own was insane.
That came from the fact that you cannot control anybody else's behavior but your own was insane.
And I think coming to terms with accepting the realisation that what is inside of my control and what is outside of my control was liberating.
Coming to terms with accepting the realization that what is inside of my control and what is outside of my control was liberating.
Look, I don't think this is about being paranoid that you can't control another person's behaviour. Chelsea just knows that she has no reason to trust her husband. I can't control my boyfriend's behaviour. In fact, on top of that, I should be extra paranoid because we're long distance. But I'm really not. Never been worried at all because he's never given me a reason to be paranoid. You don't have to control someone's behaviour in order to trust them. And I know Chelsea's talking about liberation and not controlling, but like, yeah, that I feel liberated from anxiety, but not because I've acknowledged that if he cheats, it's out of my control. Even though, yes, that's true, that's not why. I feel liberated from anxiety because I know I don't have to control him for him to still have integrity towards me, because it would be out of character for who I know him to be. And that's what trust is knowing you can't control someone, but having faith they will not betray you anyway. It's not... Chelsea's got the weird thing where she's kind of imagining like trust or free from anxiety is like, it's having faith that if they betray you, you can't do anything about it. That's not what trust is. It's having faith that they will not betray you anyway. It's having, like, you just believe that they're not going to do it. It's not, oh, well, there's no point worrying because I can't do anything even if he does. It's like, yeah, that's true, but that shouldn't be why you don't have anxiety. It should be, I trust this person. And look, is it always a guarantee that you trust they're not going to betray you? No, it's not always a guarantee, but I mean, that's the point of faith, is you don't have a guarantee with faith, but you should feel it enough to kind of to not be paranoid. But this is interesting here, because Chelsea is so good at talking herself out of her own moral compass. Her paranoia was a red flag she should have paid attention to. That level of paranoia and anxiety, it's not normal. But she's so good at intellectualizing herself away from her intuition and what she knows to be right and wrong. She knows that she shouldn't trust her husband. Her feelings are screaming at her not to trust him, because she knows that he is a person capable of betraying and deceiving the person closest to him and even his own children without it apparently bothering him that much. She knows he is a deeply unreliable and deeply selfish person, and that she cannot trust him, and that he is capable of looking her dead in the eye, lying to her face and saying, I am madly in love with you and I am not having an affair. He could be saying that and be lying. She knows he's capable of all those things because she's seen him do it to another woman. But Chelsea has talked herself into a spiritual corner and gotten herself to ignore her intuition by feeding herself the line about how this was some kind of lesson in having trust and knowing you can't control others. It's like intellectual spirituality, ironically, taking you away from your own intuition and your own feelings, which is supposed to be like important in spirituality or something. So I've heard. Chelsea manipulates herself with her language as much as she does other people. It's not just other people she's conning herself. Like the best liars, she's bought into her own lies. And I think part of this is like sunk cost fallacy. After the whole mess they'd made, she'd better be happy with the man she finally won and left her husband for and ruined 2 families for. And goddamn, is she going to try and convince everyone else, including herself, that he was worth it. And maybe he was worth it. But I tend to find the happiest people aren't desperate to get others to believe that they're happy and that things are working out. Like she does, video after video. We're so happy, you want me to regret this? I don't regret this, look at him, I love him, I love him. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. Honestly.
I mean, everything everybody said sounds great on a Christmas card, I guess.
Yeah, I love this because he's just calling it out exactly. Yeah, like it's just flowery bullshit. Like, yeah, it sounds great, but like, let's get to reality here. What you're saying, does it mean anything, or is it just a nice flowery sounding statement to make yourself feel good, to feel better? But it's not true.
I have a history of deceiving people I love, and I'm capable of it.
Well, at least she's been honest for once. So I had to speed this footage up, but if you haven't seen it, I really advise you to go and watch the original Jubilee video, because I cannot express to you just how slowly she's talking. Like, you're not getting the full effect of it here, but trust me when I say that on top of what she's already saying, she's speaking so slowly and condescendingly, like she's talking to idiots or very young children, and it gets under my skin. It's so annoying to listen to. So if you want I cannot express to you enough just how patronizingly she is talking to them when it's at a normal speed. So this prompt was, it is okay to express attraction to others while in a relationship. And there's this young girl, she's the only one from the people who have been cheated on side that steps forward to agree with the prompt. And she starts by saying that she doesn't mind that she likes to have open conversations. She doesn't mind her partners telling her if, they find someone else attractive or whatever it is.
I would rather know that you have attraction to someone than you just keep that on the back burner and not tell me. Like, let me know.
And she says she likes open communication and to start, all her communication with being open and all her relationships with being open and having everything on the table. Chelsea then responds to this young girl with the most patronizing speech I think I've ever heard. And again, you should really watch the Jubilee video to get the full effect of everything. There's other things in this that I haven't been able to put in because it's just too long, but she's just so preachy. She talks down to absolutely everyone on this, acting like she's some kind of enlightened guru, like teacher there, that she's got some greater enlightenment in there to teach them all about things. But then she gives this little speech after this girl has said that, which really is only serving as a vehicle to big herself up. Chelsea then responds by saying, well, I love what you just said because it really speaks volumes to your individual security in revealing your authentic self inside of your relationship.
To your individual security in revealing your authentic self inside of your relationship.
So well done you.
So well done you.
I also think that if we have an innate response to something that we see and we actually don't give voice to it, we're ultimately putting ourselves in a place of denial. I'm going to try and mimic her speech patterns as well because yes, it really is that annoying. And denial is not just a river in Egypt. And what it ends up doing is you end up suppressing yourself and making yourself smaller for the comfort of having your relationship, which then means your relationship becomes the goal, rather than you being an individual who can be seen, valued, and understood inside of the relationship. That was the most preachy, condescending little speech that I've ever heard. More pseudo self-development word salad. In Chelsea's mind, you get to betray someone, or else, you know, they're keeping you in a box and your authentic self isn't being understood within the confines of a relationship, or whatever she said. Look, normally I would agree and say that there's nothing wrong with telling your partner, you know, oh, that person's attractive, or, you know, depending on the context and stuff like that. But with Chelsea, I think she means more than that, as evidenced by her TikToks about keeping secrets and lying to your partner being about maintaining boundaries, and her other things about, you know, finding your authentic self through an affair and all of this. She's not just talking about telling your partner if you find someone attractive. It's this, the fact she gave that speech to the girl who was like, yeah, I'd want to tell my partner if I find someone attractive. She's like, has to give this little self-development speech about how evolved and powerful this girl is. And there's no hate to this girl at all. Like, I think what she said was fine, but it's just funny that Chelsea hops on anything that could be seen as like straying outside of the relationship. Even if it's just like saying, oh, that person's attractive. She has to like morally stroke the ego of whoever said that to make them be like, you're such a good, because she's really talking about herself, like, oh well, I'm actually not in a place of denial, and I'm actually not making myself small for my relationship, and I'm understood and valued inside of my relationship, and all of these things she's talking about herself. And I think she's talking about more than just saying, oh, that person's hot or whatever. She's a deeply selfish person who's using self-empowerment speak as a cloak to rebrand hurting someone else as just being true to yourself. You know what? In a relationship, actually, you do have to make sacrifices. Not allowing yourself to sleep with someone else because you think they're hot isn't making yourself smaller. It's making necessary sacrifices for the relationship. This is language. The language she's using is language designed to trample someone else's boundaries while making them think that they are in the wrong and they are actually the one hurting and not accepting you and your authentic self by having a problem with it. Word salady word games. Look, and this is why complex language can be red flag. Not all the time, but the pretentious language is just a cover, because if you said something plainly, in plain, honest, simple language, when it's obvious what you're doing, when you don't hide it, it's like putting smoke up, you're hiding the truth. When you just speak plainly, it becomes clear that what you are doing is a bad thing. So she has to use all this flowery shit to distract from the fact what she's saying is actually pretty fucked up. And also, I just can't say, she's so preachy. It's like prissy headmistress school vibes. She then goes on to like subtly wag her finger and tell this other woman off, correct her behaviour for this woman talking candidly about her insecurities and how she appreciates her partner never makes her feel less attractive than other women in his eyes. So the ginger lady says, so me and my partner have shared these things, referring to sharing if they find someone else attractive. She says, but my partner always makes sure to add in, but like you, like you're like amazing. She says, but I agree. She's agreeing with Chelsea. She said, but I think it is healthier to give voice, because like if I saw my boyfriend maybe looking at someone and he didn't tell me, he didn't say anything, then I'd be thinking more like, oh, okay, maybe that he hasn't told me. Why didn't he share that with me? And so then I might get suspicious because I'm like, why haven't you said anything to me? And then Chelsea then really bitchly, she gives us this look, and then she comes in and she says, but wouldn't you say that your insecurities are yours to manage, not your partner?
But wouldn't you say that your insecurities are for you to manage, not your partner?
Oh, yeah.
And then the ginger lady responds, oh, yeah, of course, yeah. And then Chelsea says, so him or her changing their behavior because of your insecurities would lead them to a place of inauthenticity.
Changing their behavior because of your insecurities would lead them to a place of inauthenticity.
Ginger lady then, being more polite than I would have been, says, oh, just to be clear, I didn't ask him to do that. He just that says that of his own free will, and she says maybe he does that because he knows I've struggled with insecurities, but just to be clear, I'm not telling him he has to say this to me. But again, you really need to watch it to get the full effect of just how like snide this was from Chelsea. This is just like, do whatever you want or else you're not being authentic. Cult speak. Stupid cult speak. Yeah, Chelsea, actually, I would expect my boyfriend not to constantly be telling me that he finds other women more attractive. Thank you. Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, I would expect that. And that doesn't mean it's leading him to a place of inauthenticity. I can't stand the language he uses. And it also doesn't make me insecure. It means he's being thoughtful and considerate of my feelings and doesn't want me to feel less than, which is authentic, I hope, to how he feels, but how authentic to how most people feel, to how this woman's boyfriend probably feels. We value our partners above other people, and making them feel that way is authentic for most people. Even if they find others attractive, it's still authentic to want to make their partner feel like, I value you above other people still. Like that's not an inauthentic thing. Maybe not for Chelsea, because she values herself over other people, but for the rest of us. People, men and women, aren't being insecure and leading their partner away from inauthenticity. If they appreciate validation from their partner sometimes, if they want to feel valued and cared for by their partner and feel like they can open up about their insecurities and be vulnerable around them, and it's actually really fucking bitchy and passive-aggressive of you, Chelsea, to imply to the nice ginger lady who's been nothing but respectful to you this whole conversation, even though you're actually unbearable to be around, really bitchy and mean of you to imply that she's insecure and leading her partner away from inauthenticity by appreciating some kind words from her boyfriend. Oh, the horror! You're right, she's so unevolved, Chelsea. She's not as good as you. This is why I'm talking about this. People like this, people who use pseudo-spiritual language and pretend they're so evolved and beyond ideas of right and wrong, they're still mean. People like this are still mean, but they're just passive-aggressively mean. I hate this because I've seen this passive aggression in New Age circles so much. They will say something mean under the cloak of being spiritually enlightened when actually it's just a dig at someone else and a way to morally grandstand and put themselves higher. That's exactly what she did right there.
But wouldn't you say that your insecurities are for you to manage, not your partner? Changing their behavior because of your insecurities would lead them to a place of inauthenticity.
The subtext here is, wow, you're kind of insecure, that's embarrassing, and I'm better than you, because I've transcended my insecurities, and actually you're putting your partner in a box by demanding basic respect from them. And I don't like that because it calls attention to my own flaws of not respecting my partner and trampling all over their feelings because I'm deeply selfish. And I'm progressive and I'm like a freedom fighter and I'm so brave. I'm courageous in my revolutionary, I break society's rules, and that's like, I'm just better than you, and it's not your fault that you're like not as good as me and you still put your partner in a box, but you're just like an unevolved human and I'm like the final form. It really annoys me, saying something mean but pretending you're spiritually enlightened when you say it. It's worse than being mean because you're being mean while pretending you're being enlightened. If you say something bitchy, just be honest about it. Like me right now. Chelsea, I think you are an obnoxious cow with a finger-wagging attitude of an uptight teacher, and you are horrible. And your videos are cringe and embarrassing. The craziest thing that I learned from this Jubilee video is that apparently Chelsea is a Christian, which is confusing because I feel like someone, I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure there's some sort of rule about adultery in Christianity. I think it was kind of a big deal. Someone wrote it on a stone tablet or something. I'm pretty sure it was like a top 10 list, like top 10 list of things believers shouldn't do. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it was vague either. I think it was like, you shall not commit adultery. Something like that. Something really explicit like that.
Chelsea now says that she thinks there is a benefit if the person who has been betrayed, if the betrayer has already decided to leave the relationship, she thinks that their whole truth is not necessarily an obligation they owe to everybody. I guess that's her justification for why she stayed in a marriage for years, even while she was having an affair, because she'd made a decision eventually that she might leave him if her boyfriend ever decided to pick her, but for the moment she was happy leading her husband on, staying with him, because she thought eventually, you know, when I get the opportunity, I'll believe him, so why does he need to know? I'll continue having my affair for ages. She's great. We love Chelsea.
I think that our whole truth is not necessarily an obligation to give to everybody.
But again, she's being so sneaky with the language here. I want to just look at, I'm sorry if you can hear my dog panting, he's panting really loudly. She's being so sneaky with the language here. She's arguing something no one is saying, so it sounds better. Like that statement, you hear it and you go, oh yeah, that's true. Our whole truth isn't necessarily an obligation to give to everybody. Yeah, that's true, but no one's saying that. Your partner, however, who is not everybody, when you broke the promise of your relationship, yeah, you might owe them that truth. You might actually be obliged to give your partner the whole truth about that specific thing where it relates to them. Sneaky language.
Chelsea is asked if she let her husband know that she was cheating on him, and she said, oh yeah. She said it was awful, it was horrible. And she ends with saying, I felt like I was giving him more information than he needed.
It felt like I was giving him more information than he needed.
But this is cult speak. Who are you to decide the information someone has access to before they make a decision about their lives and know how to move forward? I'm not saying she's a cult, but I am saying she's using some of their tactics to control people on an individual level. This is just a justification of deceit. It was awful and horrible for her. Oh, was it? Boo-hoo. I don't care. You still, you owe him that truth. And it might have felt like you were giving him more information than he needed. But if he asks for that information, you don't have to tell him everything. I actually think, you need to tell him having an affair, and if he asks for more, that's his decision. You don't have to tell him everything. If he doesn't want to hear it, that's up to him. But you do owe that. You owe at least offering the truth.
Chelsea now says, and again, I really can't express how slowly she's talking. Most of the short clips I'm showing are sped up, but she very slowly deigns to bestow her wisdom upon all these people that she knows best. And she says very slowly, if you have cheated on somebody, the psychological effects on that person need to be considered. Your perception of everything that had occurred is tainted because you're wondering, well, was she thinking about me in this picture that we took? Was she thinking about him?
Because you're wondering, well, was she thinking about me in this picture that we took? Was she thinking about him?
And I think that there's just a lot to consider when you are deliberating on how much and what to share.
Oh, holy Chelsea. Oh, now she cares. Now she cares about the psychological effects on the person she cheated on. This is consistent with Chelsea. She's very manipulative at reframing selfish choices actually being for the well-being of the other person. That's how she makes it sound, when really they're only of benefit to her because she found it a horrible experience telling her husband. It's too late for that. That ship has sailed. You should have considered the psychological effects of betrayal on someone when you made the decision to betray them. You can't undo it and consider the psychological effects now when you decide whether or not you should tell them what you have already done. No, too late for that. The harm has already been done and the action has been committed, even if they don't know about it. It is too late to pretend to care now suddenly about their psychological well-being above your own needs. No, you've lost that choice when you put your own needs above their psychological well-being in the first place.
Your perception of everything that had occurred is tainted because you're wondering, well, was she thinking about me in this picture that we took? Was she thinking about him?
Yes, somebody has a right to do that, and somebody has a right to reframe their relationship. Of course they do. How dare you steal their right to reframe their experiences based on a betrayal? My mind is blown. How about your ex-husband's wife? Do you think maybe, it probably was torture for her to go think back through the last 5 years of her marriage and think, oh my God, and when he said that, was he sleeping with her? It probably was horrible for her. But she has a right to do that because it's true. It's true that maybe when husband said, darling, I love you, he didn't mean it. Maybe that's accurate. And maybe she has a right to think of her own reality and reassess what's real and what's not. Maybe she has a right to come to terms with that and understand what is real and understand the depths of how someone betrayed her. How dare you steal their right to reframe their experiences? That's pretending you're doing it not to hurt them. It might help them spot future red flags in a partner. In a future partner, it might help them. Having reframed everything and thought through, it might drive them crazy. And if they don't want to hear it all, then they don't have to hear it. But if they want to reframe everything and think, oh my God, he was lying to me the whole time, if that's true, they're allowed to do that. Because guess what? When someone else comes along, they might go, okay, now I've got a different frame of reference and can just, give them a different perspective on things. I think what Chelsea is saying here is that she doesn't like the uncomfortable feeling of someone looking back at her as a partner and analysing her behaviour, analysing her every action, every word for the lies, criticising her actions being under a spotlight and dissected, at having your partner suddenly look at you differently and realise they can't trust you or anything you say. That's uncomfortable for you, so you've decided to pretend that you don't want them to suffer that analysis.
When somebody else on the panel is arguing to Chelsea that actually the cheated on needs to know that they've been cheated on, she says they need to know that. The moderator then asks Chelsea, okay, well, what would you say in terms of psychological damage? What would you say to that they need to know that? Chelsea responds, I would say that it's not my place to dictate what somebody else needs. It is their place to tell me what they need. Why does she have to pretend to be enlightened in everything that she says? It's just this is philosophy for stupid people.
I would say it is not my place to dictate what somebody else needs. It's their place to tell me what they need.
How are they supposed to tell you what they need when they don't even know that you've cheated on them, or what like, she's so gross with her manipulation of therapy speak, of spiritual speak.
If you don't know about it, it doesn't do any damage, says Chelsea.
To your point where you brought up psychologically, I feel like at that point, once you already cheated, like psychologically, they've already taken a lot of damage, so therefore we still have to...
If you don't know about it, it doesn't do any damage. Well,
and here we have Chelsea's philosophy for life. Of course it does damage. People know, they sense it on some level when they're being deceived. Like you said, your husband's ex-wife knew that he was having an affair. For 5 years, even though she had no proof, she knew, she felt it. She kept asking him, are you having an affair? Are you having an affair? It drove her crazy. You even said that. It probably was helpful of her in the end to know that actually, oh wait, I was right. I can trust my instincts. He was having an affair, to give her that kind of closure. Of course, it was doing damage to her before she knew about it. What are you talking about? You don't even believe that. Chelsea's moral standard seems to be the narcissist moral standard. Something is only bad if someone knows about it, which begs the question, how would she or does she behave when no one's watching? If you don't know about it, it doesn't do any damage. Quote from Chelsea. Apparently that's how she believes. That's why she doesn't believe in right and wrong.
Another girl then gets into an argument with Chelsea about taking accountability. So this girl's getting really annoyed with Chelsea, saying, you're not even taking accountability if you don't even tell them. And this girl says, if you're not going to tell them because of psychological damage, you chose to cheat. And then Chelsea cuts in and says, hold on, telling them that you cheated is not taking accountability.
You chose to cheat. Hold on. Disclosing that you cheated to the person that you cheated on is not accountability.
Chelsea says that it's selfish to tell them, so she says to this girl, you're talking about the benefits for you. You're talking about alleviating your guilt if you tell them. You are achieving relief by doing a confession. And what I'm saying is, maybe it doesn't have to be that person. As in, maybe you could tell someone else, not the person you cheated on.
You're talking about the benefits for you. You're alleviating your guilt by telling somebody what you did. You are achieving relief by doing a confession. And what I'm saying is, maybe it doesn't have to be that person.
Yeah, here we go. Chelsea the cheater is now going to preach to us from on high about what being selfless looks like.
I would tell a therapist.
When the moderator asks Chelsea, well, who else would you tell? I suppose if not the person, she says, I would tell a therapist. I would check myself into therapy and say, holy shit, I've derailed my life and I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't want to cause any more damage. And therefore, please help me, guide me in my next steps. Because she's so noble, don't you get it? Not telling the person you cheated on is the noble thing to do. She's such a martyr. Oh my god. Chelsea, she's so brave. She's such a hero.
But I don't want to cause any more damage, and therefore, please help me, guide me in my next steps.
Stuff like this is exactly what like church people do. Go to their pastors and not tell their partners if they sin. I'm not saying all church people, I'm saying like the toxic ones, Like, and also, she just contradicts herself. She doesn't even disagree with this because she said, oh, I am selfish. My number one priority is me. She agrees with that. So then why even pretend that you care about putting someone else first if you're happy to acknowledge that, oh yeah, my number one priority is me? Then why are you now talking about that? Why do you now suddenly care that telling someone else is selfish? If it alleviates your guilt, I thought you were number one, Chelsea. If it alleviates your guilt, why wouldn't you tell them? I think because that's a difficult conversation, actually.
Oh, I'm very selfish.
Actually, to be honest, I think
my number one priority is me. Me.
Chelsea then goes to point out the obvious, as if none of us already had seen that, and say that, oh, I'm very selfish. My number one priority is me. Me. Direct quote from her. And when the other girl asks her, is it still like that in your relationship today? Chelsea says, oh, absolutely. She's proud of being selfish, guys. Because it's enlightened, you see? This is how she's twisted it out to be. She's actually like really empowered and enlightened and on her path and above us all because she's realised, the true way to live is putting herself first. But it's actually a spiritual thing because she's like made it sound like it's a profound thing rather than just like a shitty thing.
And is it still like that in your relationship today? Absolutely.
Because as Chelsea says, if I want to show up to a thriving relationship requires a fulfilled individual. And if I do not have me at the primary center of my decisions, I will start making decisions for other people. And what that means is that they start to lead my life.
If I want to show up to a thriving relationship requires a fulfilled individual. And if I do not have me at the primary center of my decisions...
There is such a thing as putting your own life mask on first. I agree. Before you can help about this, yeah, I agree. Take care of yourself, I agree. But I'm not sure I agree that you should always consider your own needs above your partner. I also don't think that you should always consider their needs above yours. That's also toxic. But you should consider each other's needs and not always put yourself first. and consider your own needs above theirs either. That leads to behaviour like Chelsea's and coaching other women on cheating. And it just more pseudo-spiritual talk about being a fulfilled individual. It's just like putting lipstick on a pig, you know, trying to make it sound better, something bad sound good.
Chelsea says, if you are disclosing information to someone else for the purpose of relieving shame and guilt, that's not the effective solution. The effective solution is going into the shame and guilt, acknowledging it and understanding why it's there. And she says how shame tells us that, you know, you're not aligned with your value system. And then one of the cheated on guys, who's actually my favourite person on this panel because he's just very down to earth. He was the one who said, you know, well, that sounds great on a Christmas card. He interrupts Chelsea's sanctimonious little sermon as she bestows her wisdom upon the less fortunate. He interrupts her to say, as she's talking about why you shouldn't disclose and why it's actually selfish to tell your partner that you cheated on them.
But you're missing the point of the other person's time. You've pretty much ruined their life.
And he interrupts her to say, but you're missing the point of the other person. You're missing the point of the other person's time. You know, what you've done to them. You're missing the point that you've ruined their life. You've used up their time, and Chelsea has to put her hand to her heart as he says this and go, oh no, because he's silly. Don't you understand? Like he's not as enlightened as her. He's actually really stupid. Like this is a stupid, he's a stupid pleb, and he doesn't get the higher ideal. So Chelsea has to bestow really patronising hand to her heart and go, oh no.
Use up their time.
No. Hold on, wait a second.
So you don't think you...
Wait a second.
Go ahead.
Listen, no one can ruin... The only person who can ruin my life is me. Silly him for not understanding Chelsea's higher spiritual concepts.
I think that the only person who has the power to destroy my life is me.
Silly him for thinking that he could share his experience of being cheated on and how traumatic it was. No. He's got to wait a second for Chelsea's wisdom. And the guy responds by saying, you can say that now as a person who's grown and, you know, moved on. But when you're in the situation where someone's cheated on you and they don't know that you're cheating on them, you owe that to them. And then Chelsea has to take a weird detour and psychobabble and confuse people when she's losing the argument and say, why would I develop a dependency for my purpose? I don't even know what she's trying to say here. Why would I develop a dependency for my purpose on someone else? It's spiritual hogwash. And the guy just laughs and says, what are you saying?
Why would I develop a dependency for my life's purpose?
But no one's saying it's a dependency.
Then this other guy who was also cheated on, he cuts in and he says, well, Chelsea, it sounds like what you're trying to say is I should be able to do whatever I want and how you take it is on you. But I'm going to have the freedom to do whatever I want, even if it hurts you. That's what it sounds like. And then Chelsea really kind of patronizing. He says, no. And I need to understand how slowly she's speaking, please. She's speaking so slowly. It's condescending to these people for just disagreeing with her. They're just not enlightened, you know. She says, no. Maybe you misheard my earlier statement. As if these people are stupid for disagreeing with her. So even though they're saying back to her exactly what she's saying, rather than she'll just use little verbal tricks and confuse them and say, oh no, maybe you're dumb. Maybe because you're telling me my worldview back to me and it sounds bad. Maybe you just misunderstood my earlier statement.
I should just be able to do whatever I want. How you take it is all up to you, but I'm going to have the freedom to do whatever I want and if it hurts you. That's what it sounds like.
Maybe you didn't hear my first statement.
This is why what Chelsea says is so sneaky, because there are elements of truth to this. It is true, in a way, that no one can ruin your life. It's true that despite outside circumstances, you have a choice at how you react to things and you can find something good and you have a choice you can rebuild your life something better. You don't have to let someone ruin your life. There is truth to that. But Chelsea is using the guise of empowering people as a get-out-of-jail-free card for not taking accountability for how her actions hurt others. Because, it's a choice. If my actions hurt you, you're choosing that. Oh, did you get upset that I cheated on you and destroyed your trust? Babe, that's just a choice, and it's an unenlightened choice. Your feelings are on you. Again, it's true to some extent, but it's not true to dodge accountability. Guys, if someone murders your family, if someone murders your family, guys, that person didn't destroy your life. They didn't destroy your life. The only person who can destroy your life is you. It's you. It might seem like a silly comparison, but that's just her logic taken to the extreme. And look, this is why pseudo-psychological and pseudo-spiritual language to manipulate people can be so effective, because there is a deeper truth there that she's saying that is true, and that's probably what resonates with people. They recognise there's a deeper truth somewhere in what she's saying. And there was an empowering message, but she's twisted it for her own ends. There is a deeper truth that, of course, you can always take your power back in life, and even in the worst circumstances, you can decide to make something of your life and not let someone else destroy it. But spiritual bullshit, like Chelsea says, ignores the real world and the practical and, you know, what's real. She ignores that, yes, while you have power over your life, no matter the external circumstances are still going to affect you. And people are still accountable for the bad things they do. You can't just say, oh, but that person could choose to, like, not let their life be ruined, and therefore I didn't do anything wrong. No. They can choose to not let their life be ruined by their husband having an affair with you, Chelsea, and they can be like, okay, I'm going to rebuild something, I'm going to, you know, my life's in my hands, I'm going to make something of my life now and still be happy despite this woman. But that doesn't mean that you're innocent, that you didn't do anything wrong, that you didn't hurt someone, that you're not responsible to some degree for that. And also, by the way, that's how abusers talk, for the record. Like, oh, did I hurt you? Sounds like a you problem. Oh, but that's not me, that's you. Because you're choosing to be hurt by what I say and do. You're so sensitive, you're so sensitive. She then has the gall to morally grandstand again and pretend this is about suicide and how, what if your partner's suicidal, then you can't tell them.
It's not in a sense to try and relieve any type of...
Look, you still owe someone the truth. Then, okay, you get them help and make sure they're safe and tell them when appropriate. But you see how she's reversed good and bad now. She's so manipulative. Now, if you do the right thing and tell the truth, well, now Chelsea's going to make it so that you actually did a bad thing. You did a bad thing and made them kill themselves. And Chelsea wouldn't do that. Chelsea wouldn't do that. She can't conceive of doing that because she's not selfish. And also she's talking to the rest of this group like they're children and they just can't conceive of her high level of enlightenment. She's awful. And again, this suicide example, like how... That's a rare case. It'll be a rare case. And that's what we call emotional manipulation and controlling someone through guilt. And shaming people, shaming the others into, you could be really hurting someone by doing that. As if her actions don't hurt people. Because she's controlling people through guilt, which I thought she was against, but she isn't.
So a lot of the women that I counsel are in domestic violence households.
And then she makes it again about DV, which is always about the extremes. She's using the extremes to justify the general behaviour.
So when responding to the prompt, it's not always the cheater's fault when they cheat. One of the other women there says cheating is a choice, and I think when that happens, you know, it's a conscious choice. We can blame, you know, the person chose to cheat, we can blame that person, the cheater. Chelsea then has to jump in and say, but what is the purpose of assigning fault? Which was the prompt, so the girl was just answering the prompt.
But what is the purpose of assigning fault?
What is the purpose of assigning fault? To hold your hands up when you've done something wrong and to heal from it for you, so you and others can heal from it. Again, let's take that logic to the extreme and see how it doesn't work in the real world. Someone kills someone. Oh, what's the purpose of assigning fault? Let's not assign fault. Chelsea's enlightened. She doesn't assign fault. Don't put them in prison. That's assigning fault. It's no one's fault. But Chelsea knows what she's doing and teaching is bad, otherwise she wouldn't use euphemisms. Like, for those who have been impacted by infidelity is a euphemism for those who are actively cheating on their partner. She's using distancing language. If it's not bad, why do you need to distance yourself from the action and make it passive? People have been impacted. They're not doing the action they've been impacted by. They're helpless. Why are you doing that if you know it's not bad, if you know they're choosing to behave badly? And the Dadvocate made a great point. You pay Chelsea so she gives you lofty rhetoric to gaslight your spouse with.
So Chelsea then says, I think falling in love is an experience, and in my experience, I had never encountered the experience of falling in love. How many times can she say experience to make it sound better? So she didn't cheat, guys, it was an experience. So she's going to say experience so many times, because she experienced something. She didn't choose to have an affair for 5 years. She experienced the process. The experience of falling in love was experienced by her, an experience that she had never experienced before. I can say with certainty today that my episode of cheating was definitely the experience of falling in love. See, guys, it was an episode. It was just an episode of cheating, you know? It was like out of her control. And she says basically when she was with her ex-husband, it was part of a plan. She had a plan to get married, have kids, blah, blah, you know, and she thought she was doing everything right. And then she just met someone. Whereas the aspect of falling in love, there was no plan. I crossed paths with somebody who lit my soul on fire. And all logic went out the window. And then the guy asked, was that love though or lust? And Chelsea goes, it was everything. It was so much.
I crossed paths with somebody who lit my soul on fire and all logic went out the window.
Yeah, it's happened to her. She just crossed paths. All logic went out, like she couldn't help it. She was a victim. All logic went out the window. She crossed paths with someone who set her soul on fire. And it's just, she's been impacted by infidelity during her 5-year affair. She's still not taking responsibility for her actions and her choices.
When people come into my comment section and they're like, oh my God, you're not a girl's girl. I'm like, duh. My network is exclusive. This is crazy that you guys, virtue signal, I'm a girl's girl, and that's why I don't know. No. You just have a prejudice.
Sorry, what are we talking about? You just have a prejudice. I'm not a girl's girl, what? Because I systematically destroyed another woman's life who had done absolutely nothing wrong to me and made a complete mockery out of her privately, and then am continuing to do that publicly with the man that I took from her while her entire life was turned upside down. You're just prejudiced against people like that. And then she has the audacity to say, you don't get my support? What are you talking about?
Get my support because your dad and your mom somehow ended up in bed together and you received a certain gender. I will tell you whose girl I am, though. I'm Lisa's girl. I'm Anne-Marie's girl. I'm Olivia's girl. I'm Julie's girl. And I'm Cecilia's girl. I booked their flights out to California to come and have a celebration with me because business is booming, people. It's fucking booming. And I love those girls because they were good humans. I'm a good human's human. That's what it comes down to.
Okay, me when I'm gaslighting myself so that I can go to sleep at night. I'm a good person, yeah.
She thinks that's such a mic drop moment. I bet she felt so cool saying that. This is what people mean when they say millennial cringe. It's things like this. This is like watching a teacher trying to be cool. She's not a good human's human.
My advice, when you want the truth, don't ask the person you suspect of lying to be honest. That's just dumb logic and sends a signal that you really just want them to hide it better from you, which they will. It's like holding their cake over their head and handing it to them with a fork. Think about that for a minute. What?
She's victim blaming again. Oh, it's like a cake. They can't control themselves. A liar can't control themselves. You're just telling them you want them to hide it better.
What's it? What is this it that you're referring to? The marriage? How can you be responsible for a marriage or not it? What are they responsible for? Their participation in a relationship that was mutually consensual? Odd, okay?
She has never taken accountability or grown. Ever, if she thinks that. If you think you can't be responsible, how can I be responsible for a marriage I'm not in? I never did anything. Me? I'm an ickle baby.
This one is so good because it's somebody asking her directly to self-reflect. And she responds to a comment begging her to reflect and think like, okay, what if your husband had an affair and got that woman pregnant? And this is how she responds.
If my husband fathered another woman's child while he was married to me, I'd send that baby a fucking gift. And then I'd probably give myself the gift of divorce, and then I'd go on my merry way. I'd still get to be me. The only thing that really bothers me is shitty infidelity content.
No big deal. Oh, okay. Okay, then no big deal. Because Chelsea says if she got cheated on, she'd be chill about it. Yeah. Don't you guys get it? She's a cool girl. She doesn't do drama like other girls. Chelsea is chill. You guys need to chill out if your husband cheats. You need to chill out if your husband cheats. Because Chelsea said that it wouldn't bother her if her husband got another woman pregnant. She'd just go on her merry way. She'd merry way. She'd still get to be her. I'd still get to be me. Oh, I'm going to use spiritual language to hide the fact that I'm terrible. I'd still get to be me. It's not a big deal. Why are you even bothered? You still get to be you. I didn't make you not you by cheating on your husband. Therefore, having an affair really isn't a big deal. And you guys are really overreacting by holding her accountable. Really overreacting. Like, just get over it. Get over it. Oh my God. This isn't about you. It's really not about you. You still get to be you. You still get to be. If your husband gets another woman pregnant, go on your merry way. You still get to be you. I don't believe that for a second, by the way. I don't believe that. I think if Chelsea's husband did get another woman pregnant, I think she would throw a fit. I think she's just saying that so she doesn't have to look in the mirror and acknowledge that she might be responsible for someone else's pain. Also, how disrespectful to your husband. I know you're trying really hard to play it cool, Chelsea, and, like, nothing bothers you, like, you're a cool 15-year-old. Ooh, can't care about things, I'm so edgy and cool with all my dramatic Taylor Swift songs in the background of my videos. Oh, the nothing bothers me attitude. Yeah, it's very cool. I think really cool, Chelsea. I really want to be your friend. But having the attitude that, you'd get the baby a gift and go happily on your way, completely unbothered, if your husband left you to start a new family, just tells us that you don't care about him at all. If what she said is true, which it isn't, I think she would care, but she's just being a petulant child saying, like, I don't care, doesn't bother me, even when it obviously does, just so she doesn't have to, like, admit. She can't even admit. That's how little accountability she's done, despite being a life coach and saying that she's healed and moved on. She cannot even take the accountability of admitting, yes, it would hurt me if my husband had an affair. That would upset me. And yeah, I realised to some extent, of course, I can empathise with his ex-wife or with people who've been cheated on. I can empathise with people who've been cheated on. She won't do that. She will not empathise with people who've been cheated on. She will not offer them that empathy. She can't do it. Because then she has to think that she's done something bad. So she has to dismiss and devalue everyone else's feelings except hers.
In Chelsea land, only she matters, only her feelings and her self-discovery and her finding herself. It's so manipulative.
As someone who's been cheated on, I have zero respect for those who engage in affairs.
As someone who has cheated on someone, I don't care. But, you know, good for you. Hope you're working through it.
It's amazing how she's preaching all this empathetic stuff and having understanding for people having affairs. She cannot even offer the empathy of, yeah, you're right on that. It would suck to be cheated on. She can't even admit that it would suck to be cheated on. She can't even do that. That's why I think she's a narcissist, because you could still have a similar thing to what she's doing, but just be like, yeah, I would upset and it sucks and it hurts, but, you know, I'm all about nuance and realising there's different, you know, circumstances. But, like, she can't even do that. But, yeah, and again, don't you love it when the attention-seeking drama queen gets on her high horse and pretends she's above the chaos that she's created? Like, she's not the drama. It's like throwing a firework into a crowd that you're not standing in, and then when everyone runs and screams, you get to stand there and just go like, oh my god, guys, why are you always causing a fuss? You're making such a big deal out of this. You're making things a situation now. Like, you've just made a drama. You made a situation. You should all just be chill and drama-free like me.
Word for word, what happened after I attempted a sincere apology to my married boyfriend's wife. So this is just a cute little video where she wants to pretend that the woman who's been getting consistently betrayed by the father of her children and her husband for 5 entire years. This is a cute little video where Chelsea tries to make her look crazy for not accepting her apology. Yeah. Isn't that crazy of the wife for doing that? Isn't she so out of line? They say that you're a home-wrecking whore who just wants to be me. Is your point that people who get cheated on need to handle it better? Is that like what you're trying to teach people, Chelsea? Is what we really need to be understanding is that if we find out that our entire life has been a lie for the greater part of a decade, we're not supposed to tell other people about it. We're not supposed to tell anybody what you did. We're supposed to protect your secret. We're supposed to just eat up and swallow the pain. Go forth with a perfectly amicable divorce.
Yeah, I think her point is that people who get cheated on just need to handle it better, because she doesn't care, because she has no empathy. She's so entitled. Imagine being so entitled that you think you're owed forgiveness for that. I apologised for having an affair with her husband for 5 years and making him abandon his children. I can't believe she didn't accept my apology. What a bitch, right? I think you have to be a narcissist. I think you could put that out there and people are going to side with you. She just thinks she's always in the right and the victim in every circumstance.
Their infidelity did not make me feel anything. All of their reactions to the news about their infidelity, that made me feel something.
So now Chelsea is trying to say, listen, kids whose lives are torn apart by infidelity, betrayal trauma, and divorce, they're fine. You know what's really going to hurt those kids is if you make their parents feel bad about the cheating. That's what's really going to hurt them.
Yet again, she's made herself the victim. Cheating doesn't hurt kids. People's reacting to it does. Chelsea's actions don't hurt people. You making a big deal out of Chelsea's actions hurt people. That's Chelsea's life motto. I'm just going to read something to you. And this is, I know it's been going around a lot, called the narcissist prayer. You know, that this is like the mentality of a narcissist. That didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. I'm pretty sure throughout this whole video, Chelsea's done every single one of those things. Oh, it's not bad. Get over it. Infidelity's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And if it was, it's not her fault. She can't help it. It's not her fault. Oh my god. Oh, and if she did mean it, you deserved it. Like his ex-wife deserved it, because she's crazy. She needs an exorcism. So just to conclude this video, is there a space for nuanced conversations about people healing or getting over infidelity even when they're the cheater? I think there could potentially be a space for that. And do I think that someone who's cheated is terrible forever and ever and we should always judge them and hold it against them? No, I don't think that. Like in this video, it's funny, in the Jubilee video, the woman I really like is the redhead. She's an example of a cheater who's learned from it. She's an ex-cheater who's learned from it, held themselves accountable and moved on. And it's in the comments, people are quite generous with her and quite understanding of her. It's because people recognize that she's taken accountability and kind of done that work, and people have quite a high tolerance for forgiveness, really, when it's genuine. I think most people are willing to let go of someone's past and not to judge them, but only when they've done the work. And the reason people hate Chelsea is because people can see that she's not. But she's pretending she has. Not only has she not done the work, but she's the worst of everything because she's not done the work, but she's morally grandstanding about how she has, and she's just a more evolved person than everyone. And everyone's wrong for thinking what she did was bad. And also, look, there's more nuance as well. Like, would people hate Chelsea even if she was married to the same guy she's married to? They've been married for 10 years and their relationship started as an affair when they're both married to other people. People would probably like give you a side eye at that. But especially if someone was honest about it and was like, yeah, so, you know, you just need a bit of like self-awareness and humility to go like, I wish we hadn't started like this, or I regret how we handled things at the beginning, or I regret how we started our relationship. I understand why we hurt people, and just think, yeah, we really did hurt people, and we feel really badly about that, but we just decided we had to be together, and, you know, whatever it is, there's more room for understanding there. And, you know, when you're actually nuanced, because Chelsea pretends to be nuanced, but she's really not. She's not nuanced for anyone who's not her. And she's not even nuanced with her, she's just always right all the time. I mean, do I think it's possible that an affair could turn into like a loving, long-lasting relationship? I think it's possible. Do I think it's probable? No. Do I think it's foolish to be coaching other women that yes, he will leave his wife for you? Yeah, I think that's dumb. I think it's not true in most cases. And I also think, do I think it's possible that two people could be married to other people and meet each other and genuinely fall in love and leave their spouses and be happy together? Yes, I think that's possible. I think that sometimes happens. I think it's rare. I think most cases of infidelity are not that. And also, there's a way to handle things, and having a 5-year affair and lying to your partner is not the way to do it. And maybe just don't have an affair in general. The main issue is that she's a coach. She's a life coach, and she's coaching other women on how to do this. She's now involved in a big legal battle because of the harm this has caused in people's lives, the harm this is doing. And people who didn't even know her before. And it's just the fake guru thing she has, the manipulative, like, cult leader-esque type vibe. But there is zero self-reflection or accountability. She's still villainizing the ex-wife while never seeking to ask, what did I do that maybe prompted her to act like that? Why might she have called me a whore? Because Chelsea made videos like wanting us to feel bad that his ex-wife called her a whore. Like, as if she was out of line for that? Like, yeah, it's not a nice thing to say, but can I understand a woman finding out that someone she kind of knows has been sleeping with her husband behind her back for 5 years? Would I maybe use that? I might. It's just the victim of, oh, poor me, she called me a whore. It's like, why? Why did she do that, Chelsea? There's no understanding of the other person's point of view while wanting all the understanding for her. She could go, yeah, that was mean. She shouldn't have called me that. But also, I can understand why, because she was really hurting, and I really messed with her, and I feel really badly for that. But she doesn't do that. I'm afraid my laptop died, my script died, so I'm going to be glancing down at my phone a little bit because I've got it on here. There's no compassion, no empathy, no forgiveness or understanding for the wife. Only for Chelsea. Her worldview is bollocks, and she doesn't believe it. She does not believe her own worldview. She's using it to dodge criticism. Only Chelsea and women like her get to be redeemed and humanised and understood. In her world. Only her and women like her. They're cheated on? They just need to get over it. Just get over it. Just chill out. Go on your merry way. Oh my god. You're still you. You don't get to be humanised or understood or empathised with. Or redeemed if you maybe did some bad things in the wake of finding out your husband had a 5-year affair. No, you don't get to be forgiven and redeemed for maybe being a bit crazy when your whole world came crashing down. We don't offer mercy or compassion or love or understanding for them. Not in Chelsea's world, no, they're too unevolved and too dumb to understand an enlightened way of life, and they deserve to be mocked on the internet because their hurt doesn't matter. And this is what happens, by the way, when a narcissist gets their hands on a worldview of compassion and understanding. They twist it into put up and agree with everything I do, or you're not compassionate and understanding. You're trying to control me. She is shaming people. She is controlling people through shame, which ironically is what she accuses the world of doing to her. She's shaming people into trying to be nice. It's not working because most people can see through her shit, but she's trying to. And she's trying to teach other women or other people how to shame their partners into putting up with behaviour, or shame them into, I can't believe you don't have nuance for my complicated human experience that's humanising me right now of having an affair behind your back. But there's truth there. I think the reason her worldview resonates with some people is because there's some truth in it about like not allowing shame to control people. And she's using this to manipulate. She's not the first person to do it, and she won't be the last. And this is why discernment is important. Compassion and forgiveness are good, but that doesn't mean be naive. It doesn't mean be naive. Chelsea wants people to be naive, so she can come along and take whatever she wants from them and treat them however the hell she wants, and they just have to smile and say, thank you, Chelsea, we love you. You're amazing, Chelsea. I'm actually angry. I don't think I'd be this angry in this video, but I really am. It's so predatory, preying on people, on their good nature. But she would like people to be naive. But no, you don't have to be naive. If you're compassionate, forgiving, and naive, you will become easy prey for someone with no compassion or understanding to come along and take advantage of your good nature and to tell you that you're not a good person if you hold them responsible for it. So that's why I have an issue with some aspects of the New Age movement. I know it's not all, but I've seen it a lot. I've seen it enough. And I think that movement can too often groom people away from advocating for themselves and pretending that negativity doesn't exist by going, la 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 la, putting their fingers in their ears. La la la, can't hear anything. Focus on the positives all you want, but don't be stupid. Ignoring the negatives doesn't make negativity in the world not exist. And sometimes calling it out doesn't mean that you're focusing on it. It means that you're getting rid of it. You have to look at dirt to clean it up. Ignore it and allow it, and it can grow and spread. And I think that's why you can get a lot of New Age cults with like these abusive gurus. Like there's been quite a lot of stories about things like that. Because of that attitude that it can encourage in people. Attitude of kind of allowing things, of positivity, of, turning a blind eye to certain things, of being shamed into accepting everyone and everything, even when you're going, you're a bit of a prick actually. That's really the thing here. Be compassionate, forgiving, and discerning, rather than naive. Even if you want to be as empathetic and, religious as Jesus was, he wasn't an idiot. Even he said, yeah, you can be as innocent and sweet and lovely as the dove, but I don't know if you guys have heard about snakes. They're quite clever. They're quite cunning. So, how get a load of snakes, guys. Take on a bit of the snake as well as the dove. Don't be silly, is what he was saying. Some people need to be bitten as well. Some people just need to be bitten. The point is, you don't get redemption if you don't do the work, because that's the key element missing here from Chelsea's whole narrative and this worldview. Yes, we can heal from our past wrongs, but you can't redeem someone who isn't willing to redeem themselves. Then you are just allowing evil and wrongdoing to continue. Mercy is a beautiful thing. I believe that. It's a beautiful thing. But not for someone who hasn't changed. Otherwise, it's not mercy, it's just enabling. And you're not just enabling that person, you're enabling them to keep harming other people. You're enabling the harm that happens. You could take that in lots of ways. There's lots of different ways in which that could be relevant. But, this is probably one of the less harmful ways, Chelsea cheating on people, that actually, as compared to some of the things that people get away with this worldview. But I think people, for the most part, are willing to forgive. I think people really love redemption stories. I love redemption stories. There is beautiful things in mercy and forgiveness, and that, to err is to human, to forgive divine. To have mercy, to let him who was without sin cast the first stone. There is wisdom in all of these things. People, we really love redemption. I think human beings adore redemption stories, so there's nothing that can make me feel moved or cry like a redemption story can. One of my favourite adaptations for Christmas Carol is the modern BBC version, which is quite different from the book because it's a lot darker, and they made Scrooge he's a lot darker, more explicitly villainous, is responsible for horrific things that happen in the course of the story. It gets very dark and deals with some a lot darker themes than the traditional Christmas Carol. And the Christmas Carol in general, just a story, even without the modern dark version. Just in general though, why has that story resonated for so long with so many people? Because it's a story about redemption and hope. It's a story of someone who caused great harm in their life and did awful things and was selfish and did, who was redeemed. And that's a beautiful thing. We love to see that. And it was then embraced with open arms and found happiness. And we want Scrooge to be happy, actually, because he's not happy. But in the modern version of it, but that's the point, is that he had to be dragged through hell before he could be redeemed. Scrooge. He was like spirits, dragged him out of bed, made him face himself, made him look at himself, forced him out, and showed him, and he had to look at himself for the first time and really acknowledge it. And that's what redemption requires. You can't just float in on a cloud, Chelsea, and go, I'm perfect, forgive me, I never did anything wrong. Why won't people forgive me? Why are people still shaming me? Because what you're doing is still shameful. Because you haven't accepted any responsibility. So, that's the thing with the modern Christmas Carol. At the end, he's speaking with his old friend, Jacob Marley, the ghost of Jacob Marley at the end of it, and he says, Scrooge does not even ask for forgiveness at the end. Because he said, I don't want to be forgiven because I don't deserve it. And that was what led him to be forgiven, because he really saw and acknowledged the harm he had caused. And he thought, I've caused so much harm, I don't even deserve forgiveness and I don't want it, because I did all these things. And then it's and that's, the redemption comes from that, and it's really beautiful. And another story I thought of, film I thought of, which I loved, is The Railway Man. So I just want to bring this back to what I talked about at the beginning, about all those ideas I talked about at the beginning. Are important, are valuable. The idea of forgiveness, redemption, mercy. It's not all bullshit, and it's not all airy-fairy bollocks. And I think that's why it annoys me so much when people like Chelsea come along and use it as an excuse and twist it to be awful, because in its essence, those ideas are really noble things. When they're genuine, they're really noble things, is redemption. And healing from shame is a really good thing. So this film, The Railway Man, it's a really lovely film. It's based on a true story. So during the Second World War, loads of British soldiers were surrendered to the Japanese and became prisoners of war and made to build a railway, which became known as the Death Railway because it killed so many men who worked on it. And I don't know how much people know about the Japanese army, but they are historically not known for their good treatment of prisoners of war. And this story, The Railway Man, starring Colin Firth, it's a true story based on the autobiography of a British soldier, one of the British soldiers who was a young man, when he was taken as a prisoner of war by the Japanese. Basically, and it was a clash of cultures then, because the Japanese saw it as so shameful that they'd surrendered, whereas it's not really a shameful thing in at the time, nor is it now, particularly in like British culture, to surrender. When you surrender, you go, okay, we're going to lose this. It's not maybe not ideal, but it's not seen as like this great shame. But the Japanese saw it as so shameful that these men had surrendered that they treated them horribly because they just had no respect for them. They thought these are worse than dogs. They're like, I can't believe they were weak. They surrendered. And this one soldier, Eric Lomax, he was secretly trying to build a radio, and also he was mapping out the railway he wanted to get it to the Allies, to send it to the Allies to help them win the war. He was caught doing that, and he was then tortured horribly. And this is true. Not all of this is in the film, but this is true. He remembered one man in particular who tormented him, who was the interpreter who was like speaking, who as he was being tormented and tortured was taunting him, was involved in the torture and and he remembered this man for years afterwards, years after the war ended. After he goes, he had extreme PTSD and all kinds of nightmares, and his wife, wanted him to get help for it, and it was just causing all sorts of problems in his life. He could not forget the face of this one man, this one Japanese soldier who taunted him. He even said, this is a quote from the real Eric Lomax, quote, "I had intense hatred for the Japanese and was always looking for ways and means to do them down. In my mind, I often thought of my hateful interrogator. I wanted to drown him, cage him, and beat him as he had done to me." So he found out, as he's kind of healing from this, decades after the war has ended, Eric Lomax, basically the man who tormented him, the man whose face he remembers, it turns out, so I'll read this quote, this is from Public Christianity article. It turns out that after being confronted with the horrors of the war, the real Nagase, I think I'm saying that right, that's his name, the Japanese soldier, was disgusted with his own conduct and became a tireless campaigner for peace and reconciliation between former Japanese soldiers and Allied prisoners, despite opposition from many of his countrymen. Nagase then published Crosses and Tigers, a memoir describing his remorse over his and his country's actions and how he remained haunted by the brutalization of one particular prisoner of war. He remained haunted, so he remembered Eric Lomax. And Eric Lomax's real wife recognised this description of her husband. I don't think this is in the film, but apparently this is what actually happened. She knew that the man he was taunted by was her husband, who he was also tormented but just hatred of this man rather than remorse. So his wife wrote to Nagase identifying her husband as that individual, the individual that Nagase was still haunted by, who he'd brutalised, which opened the door for the two men to correspond before eventually meeting. When the real Lomax, Eric Lomax, met Nagase, he wanted to kill him. He was saying that he wanted vengeance, he wanted to do all the things that had been happened to him. But when he met him, he saw the sorrow and regret of his previous tormentor, and I don't think he expected to, but he forgave him in that moment, and that he had his total forgiveness. And I mean, it's really, it makes me tear up thinking of it. Like, I love that film. It's a really, really good film, but it ends with them, and I'll show pictures on the screen of what the two young men at the time. You've got a captor and a prisoner of war being brutalised, and then they were friends as old men, and they were friends up until I think Nagase died first. Was it Eric Lomax that died first? I can't remember. I don't know who died first, but they were friends up until one of them died, and the other died a year later. They used to apparently send each other Christmas cards every year and correspond and all kinds of things like that. And like, that's the beautiful aspect. And I know that's obviously so much more like higher stakes than everything we're talking about with Chelsea and just cheating. But that's the point, is that it is deeper. Is that a man can go from brutalizing another man, from torturing him, tormenting him, making him build the railway which claimed the lives of however many British soldiers, So many men died working on that railway. He luckily wasn't killed, but he could have been. And he sees his friends, you know, killed and tormented and brutalised. He's tormented and brutalised, and he had by this one man. It would seem almost impossible that Eric Lomax could ever forgive him. So my point is, like, forgiveness is not... And the beauty of that with Eric Lomax was that he didn't have to forgive him. He would have been well within his rights to never forgive the man who tortured him as a prisoner of war and left him with a lifetime of nightmares and PTSD and all other things. He would have been well within his rights to never forgive that. No one would blame him. No one would blame him for not forgiving that. But the beauty of forgiveness is that it was not earned nor deserved. It was an act of grace. That's my point, is that, yeah, I'm not saying Chelsea's on any level near a torturer. Of course I'm not saying that. But that's my point. There's not much worse you can do than facilitating the torture of someone, taunting them as they're being tortured. There isn't much worse things you can do to another human being. And there's not much more in the world that's more shameful than that. That's so shameful. That's such a shameful thing. As Nagasi found, like, years later, he was still ashamed and carried that shame for decades, just as Eric Lomax carried the trauma of it. And even a shame that deep, it's a shame you should feel, but even that shame is possible to overcome. And there's something really powerful in that. The mercy that Eric Lomax showed his captor was beautiful. If to forgive is divine, then there's hardly a better example than that, than them being friends until they died, as old men when they met. It's really, like, really moving, beautiful story. And true as well, which is what makes it so lovely. There's not much more, like, actually powerful and transcending than transcending a war and years of hatred. And I think human beings aspiring to that and wanting, you know, a world like that is a noble thing. I think that's a noble thing. I think we're all flawed and we can all have more understanding and compassion for those who make mistakes. And I think let him who is without sin cast the first stone is a profound message of mercy that we can all learn from. But you have to first know what you've done wrong. You can't continue it. The reason he was forgiven was because he's not still going around hurting, tormenting people. If he was still doing that, then he should be stopped and doesn't really deserve mercy because he's dangerous to other people, still hurting other people. Eric Lomax forgave him because he saw real remorse. He was convinced that he was going to hurt this man when he met him because they agreed to meet and, you know, found each other, were going to meet. And he was convinced that up until the moment he met him, he was like, I'm going to hurt him because he apparently couldn't even, he was so, like, traumatised by everything. His wife said, and he never told her about it, she just had to, like, piece it together and gradually found out years after they'd been married. He had to leave a restaurant if Japanese people came in, which I know sounds awful, but when you've been traumatised, he just couldn't deal with it. So if he's that sensitive to things at that point, been so traumatised that he can't even deal with being around Japanese people, he just leaves. To think that, you know, he'd be able to work through that and somehow forgive, like, he hates this man, and hates his whole country that he can't stand to be in a room with them, so that's so deep. And yet, when he met him, he was like, I'm gonna hurt him, he meets him, he sees such remorse, like, genuine remorse, that he forgives. And also, it doesn't mean they're owed it. You can still look at someone who has genuine remorse and decide not to forgive, and it's, you know, your decision, but you're within your rights to. But you can't even ask for it, I don't think, or claim that you've healed, or release the shame in yourself, because unless you've, like, realised that what you did was really, really bad. But I just wanted to mention that story because I don't want to just shit all over that entire ideology that Chelsea's claiming to represent, which annoys me because, like, she isn't. She's just using it for her own ends. But in and of itself, the message she's pretending to agree with, that she doesn't, but the message she's pretending to agree with is a really powerful one, and a really beautiful one, and sometimes mercy over punishment is an amazing thing. And it's a really strong thing to do as well. To be able to forgive is, like, requires a lot of character. To let go of all that anger and hatred. And Eric Lomax is a really great example of the strength of forgiveness and mercy and the beauty of that. And that was the ideology I began the video talking about, as I've said, of understanding and redemption and hope over punishment and eternal shame. Which is why it makes me so angry to see someone misuse that idea and the natural human instinct to show compassion or to understand or to appeal to their higher aims. Like, don't you want to strive for something better? Don't you want to be kind of enlightened? Don't you want to transcend, you know, anger and vengeance and all these things? It's appealing to that and using that as a manipulation tactic to avoid accountability and do whatever the hell you want because, oh, I don't believe in right and wrong. That's not how it works. I think shame can be used as a tool to control others, and often is. And I think the message of forgiving yourself and releasing shame is healthy. I think being prisoners of our pasts does more harm than good. But Chelsea hasn't transcended her past. She's still living there. She's still that woman fighting over another woman's husband. She's still obsessed with her. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I've also just realised that because my laptop died, the sound is just going to be recorded on my camera, and I'm really sorry if the sound's then not as good for this end bit. However, thank you very much for watching. If you follow my Instagram and Patreon, if you want to support the channel, feel free to check out the Patreon. Instagram, yep, I like sometimes posting pictures of the outfits I wear for YouTube. I don't often post, but I'm trying to post more, but feel free to follow me over there. And also download June's Journey if you would like. It will be linked down in the description box, and there's also the QR code. And thank you very much to them for sponsoring this video. Thank you for joining the musings of myself and Asis. Let us know what you think. We would love to hear your thoughts. And if there's anything in this video that you didn't like or didn't agree with, that was Asis's idea. And, you know, please contact him directly with your complaints. But no, let us know what you think, any thoughts. Conversation is good. And subscribe if you liked us. We'll be here to chat again soon. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye. Look after yourselves.